Welcome to the sleep hours, the only place where cartoons fall asleep before you do. So grab your blanket, tuck in your favorite plushie, and let's get weird. Tonight we're diving deep into the peaceful waters of Bikini Bottom, where SpongeBob and Patrick float through gentle currents, glowing jellyfish, and cozy underwater tunnels, all the way from night into a magical golden dawn. So take a deep breath and let the soft waves of this underwater adventure carry you into calm, dreamy sleep. The Krusty Krab was glowing like a beacon in the middle of the quiet ocean night. Its wooden beams creaked as the last customers shuffled out, their bellies full of Krabby Patties and their wallets a few clams lighter. Inside, SpongeBob was still buzzing with energy, his spatula gleaming in the light of the kitchen lamps. "Another glorious day of flipping patties," SpongeBob sang, twirling his spatula like it was a baton. A tiny sprinkle of grease flicked onto the grill and hissed like applause. "And tomorrow will be even better." Behind him, Squidward let out the longest, most exaggerated sigh known to sea creatures. His arms drooped over the register like wet noodles. "If tomorrow is anything like today, I'm moving to a cave, a dark, empty cave, with no one, named SpongeBob." SpongeBob gasped. "Squidward, you'd miss me too much. Who else would say, good morning, Squidward?" 57 times before lunch. "Exactly," Squidward muttered, massaging his temples. From the office door, Mr. Krabs poked his head out, his eyes practically shaped like dollar signs. "Ahoy, my boy! Great work today. With the dinner rush we had, I can hear me vault singing me to sleep already." He hugged a money bag like a pillow. SpongeBob saluted with a big proud grin. "Aye, aye, Captain Krabs, sir. I'll keep flipping patties until there are no more patties to flip." "Please don't," Squidward groaned, already reaching for his coat. At last, Mr. Krabs shooed them both away. "Go on, lads. The night's waiting. Don't let it slip through your fins." With a happy skip, SpongeBob burst out of the Krusty Krab's doors, still humming his own theme music. The cool night water outside was calm and velvety, carrying little ripples of moonlight down through the waves. A glowing jellyfish or two floated lazily by, their soft pulses lighting SpongeBob's path home. "Good night, Krusty Krab," SpongeBob called, waving at the restaurant like it was an old friend. "Sleep tight. Don't let the clam bugs bite." As he trotted along the sandy streets, Bikini Bottom looked different than it did in the day. The bustling sidewalks were empty, the neon signs dim, and the whole town seemed to whisper instead of shout. The street lamps glowed a soft bluish tint, catching the edges of the coral houses. Even SpongeBob's square pants seemed to rustle a little quiet. "Ah," SpongeBob sighed dreamily. "Nighttime in Bikini Bottom. Almost as good as jellyfishing." Halfway home, he spotted a familiar pink star sprawled out in the sand, snoring with his mouth wide open. Patrick was already asleep, halfway under a rock that didn't quite look like his usual home. He stirred, mumbled something about mayonnaise ice cream, and rolled over. SpongeBob giggled softly but didn't wake him. Finally, the cheerful outline of SpongeBob's pineapple house came into view. Its windows glowed faintly, like the warm light of a lantern guiding him home. SpongeBob pushed the door open, stepping inside with that special kind of joy you only get after a full day of doing what you love. "Home sweet pineapple," he declared, hugging his front door for a moment, before setting his spatula down carefully on the kitchen counter. Gary greeted him with a slow, sleepy meow. The snail was nestled in this little bed, his eyes half closed. "Hi, Gary. Did you have a good day? Oh, wait, you're already halfway in dreamland." SpongeBob tiptoed dramatically across the floor, even though Gary had already closed his eyes again. The living room was peaceful, the bubbling sounds of SpongeBob's fish tank filling the air like background music. His diving board bed upstairs waited for him, but SpongeBob wasn't ready to hop in just yet. He had bedtime rituals, and SpongeBob took bedtime rituals just as seriously as patty flipping. He hummed softly as he tidied up a few things, straightening his couch cushions, dusting a shelf that didn't really need dusting, and even giving his phone a polite, "Good night, phone," before clicking it off. But SpongeBob's mind was still racing with the day's excitement. The patties, the customers, Squidward's sighs all bouncing in his head like bubbles. He stood in the center of his living room with his hands on his hips. Tonight, SpongeBob whispered to himself, is going to be the coziest night ever. SpongeBob marched upstairs with exaggerated stealth, tiptoeing like a secret agent. "Operation Cozy Nightfall is a go," he whispered, rolling across the floor even though no one was watching. His slippers squeaked with every step, which kind of ruined the spy effect. But SpongeBob didn't mind. When he reached his bedroom, the diving board bed stood proudly at attention. It looked extra springy tonight, practically inviting SpongeBob to cannonball into dreamland. He gave it a salute. "Good evening, trusty bed. Are you ready for maximum snooze mode?" The bed, of course, didn't answer, but SpongeBob gasped anyway. "Oh, playing hard to get, eh?" He narrowed his eyes, then giggled. "You're good. Real good." Before diving under the covers, SpongeBob went through his nightly checklist. He pulled out a clipboard from nowhere and read aloud. Step 1, brush the TVs. He zoomed into the bathroom with a superhero pose. A moment later, he was scrubbing his square teeth so enthusiastically that bubbles filled the sink. Gary poked his head into the doorway, blinked at the foamy chaos, and slowly backed away. Step 2, pajamification. SpongeBob pulled open a drawer and revealed a stack of pajama sets, all nearly identical, all covered in little crabby patty patterns. Should I go with the double cheeseburger print tonight, or the deluxe combo meal set? He gasped and clutched the deluxe pair. Deluxe it is. A night this cozy deserves nothing less. Once he'd zipped himself into his pajamas and brushed his teeth until they sparkled, SpongeBob felt like a starfish-shaped cloud was following him around. He stretched, yawned, and rubbed his eyes dramatically. "Almost ready," he said, marching to his window. He pulled open the curtains and peered outside. The view made him pause. The ocean floor stretched out in a blanket of blue and purple, twinkling with the faint glow of drifting plankton. Jellyfish floated by, their tendrils leaving trails of soft light. The usual chaos of daytime Bikini Bottom was gone, replaced with a peaceful hum, like the sea itself was breathing. "Wow," SpongeBob whispered, pressing his face against the glass. "It's like the whole ocean tucked itself in for bedtime." For a moment he just stood there, his eyes wide and dreamy. The sight made his brain slow down. The sizzling thoughts of Krabby Patties and Squidward's sighs faded into quiet bubbles. SpongeBob hugged himself gently, swaying in place. Okay, he said softly, breaking the spell before he fell asleep right there at the window. Checklist. He pulled out the clipboard again. Step 3, bedtime story. He hopped into bed and pulled out a giant hardcover book labeled The Very Sleepy Jellyfish. The cover had sparkles that shimmered under his lamp. SpongeBob giggled as he flipped through the pages. The classics. As he read aloud, his voice softened, like he was reading to Gary. Once upon a time, there was a jellyfish who yawned so big he made all the other jellyfish yawn too. Gary purred a low meow, curling up in his shell bed across the room. Don't worry, Gare Bear, SpongeBob whispered. I'll stop before you get too sleepy. But before SpongeBob could finish the story, a faint sound echoed outside. Knock, knock, knock. His eyes widened. Huh? Who could that be at this hour? He set the book aside, tiptoed to the window, and peeked outside. There, half asleep but grinning in his usual dopey way, was Patrick Star. He was tapping SpongeBob's window with a coral branch, his eyes drooping, but his smile wide. "Psst, oh, SpongeBob," Patrick whispered, his voice muffled through the glass. "Are you, awake?" SpongeBob gasped, his square body bouncing with excitement. "Patrick, my best buddy in the whole ocean. Of course I'm awake." He flung the window open. "What brings you here this most bedtime?" Patrick rubbed his belly. "I couldn't sleep. I think it's 'cause I forgot what was I saying?" He blinked. SpongeBob clasped his hands together. "Don't worry, Patrick. You came to the right pineapple. Tonight is officially the coziest night ever, and you, my friend, are just in time." Patrick's eyes lit up even though he yawned. "Really? The coziest? Whoa!" SpongeBob reached out his hand. "Come on in, buddy. We got snacks, pajamas, and stories waiting for you." Patrick climbed clumsily through the window, landing with a thud on the floor. He looked up sheepishly. "Do you have ice cream?" SpongeBob grinned. "Even better. Midnight Krabby Patties." Patrick gasped, like he'd just seen the meaning of life. "Best night ever." SpongeBob zipped into the kitchen faster than a jellyfish in a turbo mode. "One midnight snack coming right up," he announced, pulling out ingredients like a magician with a never-ending hat. The fridge door swung open to reveal perfectly stacked patties, lettuce that sparkled like it had been washed with moonlight, and buns that seemed extra fluffy at night. Patrick waddled behind him, rubbing his eyes. "Can I help?" he asked, already reaching for a pickle jar. "Of course you can, buddy. Midnight Krabby Patties are a two-chef job." SpongeBob tied a mini apron around Patrick's belly, which looked more like a bib, and together they got to work. Patrick grabbed a bun and immediately tried to eat it. SpongeBob gently pulled it out of his mouth. No, Patrick. Remember, first we build the patty, then we eat the patty." Patrick blinked, then nodded seriously. "Got it. Build first, eat later. Build first, eat later." He repeated the phrase like it was the most important wisdom in the world. As the grill sizzled, SpongeBob flipped a patty high into the air, catching it with a flawless spin. Patrick clapped softly, yawning mid-applause. "Wow, SpongeBob, you're like a spatula wizard." SpongeBob puffed up proudly. "Thank you, Patrick. Years of dedicated training." Soon 2 perfect midnight Krabby Patties sat on the counter, glowing softly under the kitchen light. SpongeBob placed them on plates with extra care, adding little toothpicks topped with paper moons. "Ta-da! Midnight Krabby Patties, Deluxe Edition," SpongeBob announced. Patrick's eyes sparkled. "They look delicious. Like bedtime delicious." He grabbed his patty and took a huge bite, his cheeks puffing out like balloons. He hummed, half squinting as if the taste was putting him straight to sleep. SpongeBob giggled, nibbling his own patty. "Nothing says cozy night like a Krabby Patty with your best pal." They sat together at the kitchen table, the lamp casting a golden glow around them. Outside the window, the ocean was calm, little ripples drifting past. The soft crunch of lettuce and the quiet munching filled the air in the most peaceful way. After a few bites, Patrick leaned back in his chair, patty still in hand, eyelids drooping. "This is the comfiest dinner I've ever—" His head tilted back, a tiny snore escaping before he could finish. SpongeBob giggled again. Ah, Patrick, you're already drifting off. He carefully pulled the half-eaten patty from Patrick's hand and set it on the table. Then, with surprising gentleness, he tiptoed over to the couch and laid out a blanket. "Don't worry, buddy," SpongeBob whispered, as he dragged Patrick, who was still snoring, across the floor and onto the couch. Operation Cozy Nightfall always includes friends. Patrick mumbled something in his sleep. Extra pickles, no onions, and snuggled into the blanket. SpongeBob tucked him in tightly, pulling the corners like he was wrapping a present. Patrick wriggled once, then went still, his breathing slow and steady. For a while, SpongeBob just stood there, hands on his hips, watching his best friend sleep. The room was quiet, except for Patrick's soft snores and the bubbling of the fish tank. The moment wrapped around him like a hug. "Wow," SpongeBob whispered to himself. "This is already the coziest night ever, and it's only just beginning." He tiptoed back toward his bed, the clipboard still waiting with the checklist. He pulled it close and marked off Step 4, snack time with Patrick. Only one more step remained. Step 5, relax and drift into dreamland. SpongeBob yawned so big his cheeks squeaked, his arms flailing in cartoonish slow motion. He rubbed his eyes and climbed into bed. The diving board creaked before bouncing him gently onto the mattress. "Good night, Gary. Good night, Patrick. Good night, Bikini Bottom," he whispered. As his eyelids drooped, SpongeBob let out a sleepy giggle. "I can already feel the coziness bubbling all around." And with that, SpongeBob snuggled deeper into his pillow, the moonlight streaming through the window like a blanket of silver across his room. His breathing slowed, and his mind began to wander, carrying him gently toward the edge of dreams. The pineapple house grew quieter by the minute. The bubbling from SpongeBob's fish tank softened into the background. Gary's slow little snores blended with Patrick's heavier ones, and even the creaks of the walls seemed to hush, as if the house itself knew it was bedtime. SpongeBob lay in his bed with the blanket pulled up to his chin, blinking slowly at the ceiling. His eyes were heavy, but his imagination was still fizzing like soda bubbles. He thought of all the patties he'd flipped that day, all the happy faces of customers, even Squidward's grumbles. Everything replayed in his mind in warm, fuzzy colors. He rolled over and peeked out the window again. A school of glowing sea critters drifted past, their bodies lighting up like tiny lanterns. They twinkled in slow waves like a lullaby written in light. SpongeBob's face softened. "Good night, little glow guys," he whispered, waving a drowsy hand. Gary stirred in his shell bed, raising one eye stalk lazily before curling deeper into his blanket. "Meow," SpongeBob chuckled. "Sweet dreams, Gare Bear." His eyes drooped again. He tugged his pillow closer and let out another enormous yawn, the kind that seemed to stretch his whole square body. His bed bounced him gently as if rocking him to sleep. Down on the couch, Patrick snorted awake for a second, muttering, "Don't eat the sand. It's crunchy," before rolling onto his side. He pulled the blanket tighter around his belly, then slipped back into snores. SpongeBob couldn't help but giggle one last time, his laugh fading into a sigh. "He's always got the silliest dreams." The room grew still. Outside, the waves swayed in a steady rhythm, washing the ocean floor with a bluish glow. The whole of Bikini Bottom seemed to settle into a peaceful silence, every bubble rising slower than it had in the daytime, every sound muffled by the blanket of nights. SpongeBob's breaths became even, his eyelids heavy as anchors. His mind drifted gently, like he was floating with the jellyfish in a current made just for him. The edges of his room blurred, colors melting into soft purples and blues. The ticking of his cuckoo clock slowed, and even his checklist slipped from his hand, landing softly on the floor, He murmured almost too quietly to hear, "Best cozy night ever." And then with a final contented sigh, SpongeBob drifted off. The pineapple house was now a little island of sleep in the middle of Bikini Bottom. Inside, SpongeBob and Patrick dreamed, Gary snoozed, and everything else was wrapped in silence. The only sound left was the steady hum of the ocean, carrying the night forward. As SpongeBob sank deeper into sleep, his dreams began to swirl gently like the tide. The walls of his bedroom melted away, replaced by the soft, glowing hues of Bikini Bottom at night. But somehow, everything looked bigger, slower, and even more magical than in the waking world. He floated above jellyfish fields where the jellyfish glowed brighter than ever, pulsing in time with an invisible lullaby. The coral gardens shimmered like they had been sprinkled with stardust, and the sand beneath him felt like clouds made of sugar. SpongeBob waved a hand, and a small school of fish twirled around it, their tiny fins leaving trails of light that danced like fireflies. "Wow," he whispered in his dream, his voice soft and calm. "It's like the whole ocean is saying, 'Sleep, SpongeBob, sleep.'" From somewhere nearby, a gentle humming rose Patrick. Still half asleep, had appeared in the dream, floating beside him with his eyes drooping and his arms dangling lazily. "Hey, SpongeBob," Patrick mumbled. "Do you think jellyfish dream too?" SpongeBob grinned, his square body bobbing slowly. "Maybe, Patrick. Maybe they dream of drifting currents and warm sunlight, and maybe of friends who make them laugh." Patrick yawned so big it stretched his whole face. "Yeah, I like that dream." The two friends floated above a field where jellyfish lanterns hovered lazily in the water. They drifted toward a soft, glowing patch of sand that seemed to pulse with warmth. SpongeBob reached out and touched it. The light rippled under his fins like a gentle wave, soothing and calm. "You know, Patrick," SpongeBob whispered, "I think this is my favorite part of the day. Not flipping patties, not even catching jellyfish. Just floating here, calm, with my best buddy." Patrick blinked slowly, a tiny smile curling on his sleepy face. "Yeah, floating feels comfy." Nearby, a cluster of glowing sea anemones swayed as if they were dancing to a silent melody. SpongeBob and Patrick bobbed with them, their movements slow and rhythmic, like the ocean itself was cradling them in a gentle hug. The dream world was serene yet playful. Jellyfish drifted lazily into silly formations. One looked like a hat, another like a wiggly scarf. Patrick giggled softly in his sleep, pointing at the jellyfish. "Look, SpongeBob! It's a jellyfish hat!" SpongeBob laughed, the sound echoing dreamily across the water. "It suits you, Patrick. Very stylish." All around them, the ocean glowed with tranquility. Tiny bubbles floated upward, carrying faint scents of salt and seaweed, and the gentle hum of the underwater night created a soft, hypnotic rhythm. SpongeBob felt lighter than ever, as if all the worries of the day had melted away into the calm currents. Above them, the moon filtered through the water, casting silver streaks that rippled across the dreamscape. SpongeBob stretched his fins slowly, letting the light wash over him. "Even when it's bedtime," he murmured, "the ocean is full of magic." Patrick yawned again, nuzzling closer to SpongeBob in the dream. "Yep, magic and friends." SpongeBob nodded, a soft smile on his square face. "Friends make everything better, Patrick, even bedtime." The two drifted together as the dream gently pulsed around them, a slow, soothing lullaby made of water, light, and laughter. Tiny jellyfish floated by. Patrick's soft snores mixed with the hum of the sea, and SpongeBob's eyes finally closed in perfect contentment. Even in sleep, SpongeBob's heart felt full. The world of Bikini Bottom was calm, magical, and cozy exactly as it should be for the coziest night ever. The dream began to shift slowly like a gentle tide pulling SpongeBob and Patrick along. The glowing jellyfish of Jellyfish Field started to fade into soft twinkles, like distant stars sinking behind the horizon. The coral gardens dimmed the colors, wrapping everything in shades of deep blue and violet. SpongeBob stirred slightly in his dream, stretching his fins lazily. So cozy, he murmured. His square body floated gently above the sand, rocking with the soft currents. He blinked dreamily, noticing how peaceful everything felt. Even Squidward's house, far off in the distance, looked almost calm. Patrick yawned beside him, blinking slowly as if trying to stay awake. "SpongeBob, do you think the Krusty Krab is sleeping too?" he mumbled. SpongeBob giggled softly. "Maybe, Patrick. Mr. Krabs is probably counting his money in his sleep. Squidward is grumbling quietly under his blanket. And maybe the customers are all dreaming about patties too." Patrick's tiny smile widened. "I hope they're dreaming about ice cream patties." SpongeBob chuckled, letting the gentle currents of the dream carry them farther. They drifted toward a faintly glowing cave where the water shimmered in delicate greens and purples. Small schools of fish glimmered like scattered gems, weaving between them in slow, hypnotic patterns. "Look at that, Patrick," SpongeBob whispered, pointing with a lazy fin. "It's like the ocean made its own nightlight, just for us." Patrick nodded, eyes heavy, but his grin never faded. "Nightlight, best night ever." The two friends floated silently for a while, letting the lull of the underwater currents cradle them. The hum of the ocean was soothing, almost musical. Each bubble that drifted upward made a tiny plink sound, like a gentle chime. Even Gary's soft purrs from the bedroom seemed to float into the dream, adding a warm, comforting rhythm. As SpongeBob and Patrick drifted farther into the dream, the world became softer, slower, more magical. Tiny glowing plankton swirled around them like snowflakes in an underwater winter. SpongeBob reached out, letting the plankton tickle his fins. So soft, so calm. Patrick floated beside him, yawning and mumbling. "I could float, forever." SpongeBob laughed softly, letting himself sink into the comfort of the dream. "And we will, Patrick, until the morning comes, and the sun wakes the ocean, and maybe even Squidward." Far above them, the moonlight filtered gently through the water, casting silver streaks that danced over their faces. The glow was soft, warm and comforting, a blanket of light wrapping around them. SpongeBob tilted his head, watching the flicker of bioluminescent fish. The ocean at night, it's like it's whispering. "Sleep well, SpongeBob. Sleep well, Patrick. Sleep well, friends." Patrick mumbled in agreement, already halfway back to full dreamland. Sleepy, friends, happy. The currents carried them past a glowing seaweed forest, its strands swaying gently as if bowing to the night. SpongeBob felt a deep, content sigh bubble up from his square chest. "Everything is so peaceful," he whispered. "So quiet, so cozy." And for the first time in a while, the busy thoughts of the day, the Krusty Krab rush, flipping patties, Mr. Krabs counting coins, even Squidward's sighs all melted away completely. There was only the soft hum of the ocean, the glowing friends floating by, and the warmth of Patrick drifting beside him. SpongeBob's eyes finally closed fully in his dream, his body soft and relaxed. Patrick followed almost immediately, snoring softly in tune with the gentle currents. Even the smallest bubbles around them floated lazily, as if they were a part of the lullaby of the night. And in that magical, soft, glowing underwater world, the night in Bikini Bottom stretched on slow, calm, and perfect, a gentle cocoon of sleep and friendship, preparing everyone for the next part of the adventure. Slowly, ever so gently, the dream began to drift toward morning. The glow of the jellyfish dimmed, the currents softened, and the magical night of Bikini Bottom seemed to sigh as if stretching its fins. SpongeBob stirred slightly, his dream shifting like the tide, still cozy, still warm, but with a hint of the sun peeking through the ocean above. Patrick stirred too, rolling slightly in his sleep. SpongeBob, wake up. Jellyfish pancakes, he mumbled, mumbling nonsense in his gentle, sleepy voice. SpongeBob chuckled softly even in his dream, the sound blending with the lull of the water. The two floated together in a slow, peaceful swirl, letting the dream currents carry them past familiar sights, glowing coral gardens, soft sand dunes, and the distant outline of the Krusty Krab, now bathed in a sleepy pre-dawn light. Even Squidward's house looked softer, his usually sharp angles rounded by the gentle glow of the morning. SpongeBob opened one dreamy eye, catching the faint shimmer of sunlight filtering through the water. Morning is coming, he whispered, smiling softly. But not yet. Just a little more cozy, a little more calm. Patrick yawned, stretching in dreamland, his starfish arms floating like lazy fins. I like cozy mornings, he murmured, drifting back toward sleep. Outside the dream, SpongeBob's pineapple house began to stir softly. Gary blinked one sleepy eye and yawned a tiny snail yawn. Patrick, still on the couch, snuggled deeper into his blanket, muttering about ice cream patties and jellyfish hats. SpongeBob's bedroom held a perfect calm, like the world itself was taking a deep, gentle breath. Back in the dream, the soft light of the ocean highlighted SpongeBob's square shape as he floated past friendly sea creatures. Tiny fish swam lazily by, leaving trails of light like glowing ribbons in the water. The entire dreamscape seemed designed to cradle him, to make every moment feel slower, warmer, and infinitely safe. SpongeBob stretched a fin and whispered, "The ocean, the night, the friends, everything. Perfect." His square face softened into a contented smile. Even Patrick, half asleep beside him, radiated that same sleepy joy. A gentle current nudged them past a coral archway, where soft beams of early sunlight began to pierce the water. The transition was slow, like a curtain being drawn at the perfect speed, not too fast to wake anyone abruptly, just enough to hint that the night's cozy magic was slowly giving way to day. SpongeBob sighed in his dream, letting himself float lazily, drifting with the gentle flow. "Best cozy night ever," he whispered again. Almost a secret to the ocean itself. Patrick mumbled in agreement, his words half swallowed by his soft snore. The ocean's lullaby carried through the dream, blending perfectly with the gentle hum of the sea outside SpongeBob's pineapple home. Every bubble rose like a tiny note in a song. Every wave whispered calm into the night, and every flicker of light reminded them that they were safe, warm, and happy. As the current slowed, SpongeBob's dream began to fade just slightly, blending the magic of jellyfish fields with the soft reality of his room. He stirred in his bed, eyes fluttering open to the faint golden light of morning streaming through the window. The world of dreams lingered like a soft hug around him, comforting and familiar. He blinked slowly, stretching his fins. "Good morning, Bikini Bottom," he whispered, his voice soft, warm, and still tinged with sleep. Gary meowed softly in reply. Patrick groaned from the couch, and the house exhaled a calm sigh. Outside, the first hints of sunlight shimmered across the sand, brushing the pineapple house with gentle light. The night had been perfect, full of magic, friendship, and quiet laughter. SpongeBob felt it in his square chest, the memory of the cozy night, the dreams, and the soft currents wrapping around him like a blanket. He yawned, a happy, content yawn, and gave one last sleepy glance at Patrick, still dozing. Time to start another day. But first, maybe just 5 more minutes, SpongeBob murmured, tucking himself deeper into the soft covers of his diving board bed. And with that, the first segment of SpongeBob's Cozy Night in Bikini Bottom came to a gentle close, leaving the ocean calm, the friends warm, and the stage perfectly set for Patrick's late-night antics to flow into the next adventure. The night had settled over Bikini Bottom like a soft, velvety blanket. Outside, the gentle sway of seaweed whispered with the currents, and the occasional glow of a jellyfish drifted lazily past houses. The pineapple home of SpongeBob SquarePants glowed warmly, a small island of coziness in the quiet underwater world. Inside, SpongeBob had just tucked himself under the covers after a long magical day and a dreamy float through jellyfish fields. His eyes were half closed, his square body sinking comfortably into the soft mattress of his diving board bed. Even Gary had curled up into a perfect little spiral, his shell glowing faintly in the soft lamplight. Just as SpongeBob began to drift further toward sleep, a faint tapping echoed from the window. Tap, tap, tap. SpongeBob's ears perked up well, as much as square ears could perk. Huh? Who could that be at this hour? He whispered, eyes blinking sleepily. He padded softly across the room, slippers squeaking gently on the floor, and peeked out the window. There outside stood his best friend, Patrick Star, grinning in that familiar, dopey way. His eyelids drooped like they were heavy anchors, but his smile shone like a little pink star in the night. "Patrick?" SpongeBob whispered with excitement. "What are you doing awake? It's bedtime." Patrick rubbed his eyes and yawned a soft, wobbly yawn. I couldn't sleep, SpongeBob, he admitted, voice thick with sleepiness. "I think the moon is too bright, or maybe my belly. I don't know. But I needed, company." SpongeBob's eyes sparkled. "Company, you say? Well, you've come to the right pineapple. There's nothing better than cozying up with your best buddy on a quiet night." Patrick's grin widened. "Really? Best night ever?" SpongeBob nodded emphatically. "Absolutely. We can have snacks and we can tell stories. We can float in blankets. Everything cozy you could imagine." Patrick tapped the window again. Can I come in?" "Of course," SpongeBob chirped. He scrambled to open the window. Patrick climbed inside in his usual clumsy, wobbly way, tumbling onto the floor with a soft thud. He blinked up at SpongeBob, still smiling, still half asleep. "Oops," SpongeBob giggled. "Perfect landing, Patrick. Straight to cozy mode." The two friends looked around the warm, softly lit living room. The fish tank bubbled gently, the furniture sat quietly in its usual spots, and the blanket SpongeBob had left on the couch seemed to hum a soft welcome. Patrick flopped onto the couch dramatically. "Phew. Comfy," he mumbled, curling up in a starfish-shaped ball. I think I could sleep here forever." SpongeBob's eyes twinkled with mischief and warmth. "Well, first things first. What's a late-night visit without a snack?" Patrick's eyes widened. "Snack?" he squeaked, voice full of sleepy hope. "Of course," SpongeBob replied. "Midnight Krabby Patties, deluxe edition. You remember the special recipe from last time, right?" Patrick's mouth opened into a perfect O of delight. "Yes. Patties, yes. Yum. Sleep. Best night ever." SpongeBob zipped to the kitchen, Patrick trailing behind like a slow, sleepy shadow. The room glowed warmly under the lamplight, every corner a cozy invitation. SpongeBob pulled ingredients from the fridge with exaggerated care, humming softly as he prepared their midnight feast. Patrick's eyes drooped again as he plopped down onto a kitchen stool. I'm half asleep, but I can still help. SpongeBob laughed softly. You're the perfect sous chef, Patrick. Your job, taste test and nap occasionally. Patrick saluted lazily, then promptly yawned mid-motion, accidentally knocking over a small plate. Oops, my bad, he mumbled. SpongeBob just chuckled, scooping up the plate and setting it aside. The kitchen filled with the comforting aroma of grilled patties, melted cheese, and warm buns. Patrick's eyelids drooped lower with each sizzling sound. Smells like, dreams. SpongeBob placed 2 perfectly assembled patties on plates and handed one to Patrick, who accepted it with a sleepy, grateful smile. Thanks, SpongeBob. Best night ever. The two sat side by side, munching quietly, the soft glow of the lamp above casting long, cozy shadows across the kitchen. Outside, the ocean whispered softly, rocking the night along with them. Patrick let out a satisfied sigh, his cheeks puffing out as he chewed slowly. This is amazing. Even better than jellyfish hats. SpongeBob chuckled, smiling down at his friend. That's the magic of a cozy night, Patrick. Good food, good friends, and a little bit of nighttime magic. Patrick's eyelids drooped lower with each bite of his midnight Krabby Patty. He chewed slowly, occasionally mumbling incomprehensible words between dreamy sighs. Patties. Best night. Yawn. Ever. SpongeBob giggled softly, watching his best friend struggle to stay awake. Careful there, Patrick. Don't fall asleep before dessert. Patrick's head tilted sideways, almost as if it had a mind of its own. Dessert. Yes. Sleepy. He yawned so wide it could have been mistaken for a bubble rising from the ocean floor. SpongeBob chuckled again, gently nudging Patrick upright. All right, buddy, we got a plan. First, we finish these delicious patties, then we move on to the next stage, story time. Patrick's eyes fluttered open just enough to nod. Story. Time. Sounds. Cozy. He rested his chin on the table, eyes half closed, still chewing. SpongeBob's heart swelled with warmth. He loved these quiet, silly moments, just the two of them, sharing food, laughter, and sleepy smiles. After we eat, we'll curl up on the couch with blankets and read a story about a very sleepy jellyfish. Trust me, Patrick, it's the coziest story ever. Patrick's smile widened, his tongue sticking out slightly as he chewed. Yum, sleepy, jellyfish. Yes. By the time the last bites were gone, Patrick's little hands were already resting on the table, eyes drooping further. SpongeBob gently slid the empty plate aside. Step 2 complete. And now, he grabbed a large, soft blanket from the nearby shelf. Time for story time. Patrick let out a soft groan of contentment as SpongeBob spread the blanket across the couch. Cozy, he murmured, curling into the folds like a starfish-shaped burrito. SpongeBob joined him, settling beside Patrick with his own pillow and soft smile. He opened the big hardcover book titled The Very Sleepy Jellyfish and flipped to the first page. The cover shimmered softly under the lamplight, promising calm and gentle adventure. Once upon a time, SpongeBob began, his voice soft and melodic, there was a little jellyfish who had trouble falling asleep. He floated through jellyfish fields, searching for the perfect spot to rest. Patrick yawned mid-sentence but smiled lazily, eyes half closed. Perfect spot. SpongeBob read on, his voice blending with the soft hum of the fish tank. The gentle rise and fall of the currents outside, and Patrick's sleepy breathing. The words seemed to float in the water around them, carrying them deeper into a magical, peaceful world. The jellyfish in the story drifted past glowing coral, through fields of swaying seaweed, and into tiny glowing caves. SpongeBob emphasized every gentle movement, every soft ripple, so that Patrick could almost feel the currents himself. Patrick mumbled happily in response, I feel the currents. Cozy. His fins twitched slightly, curling tighter under the blanket. SpongeBob chuckled softly. See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish know how to have a cozy night. And tonight, we're just like them, floating, drifting, dreaming. Patrick let out a soft snore, finally giving in to sleep mid-story. SpongeBob smiled, gently patting his friend's head. Good night, Patrick. Sweetest dreams. For a moment, SpongeBob continued reading quietly, watching the moonlight shimmer through the window. Outside, the ocean was calm, every bubble rising lazily as if joining in the lullaby of the night. Inside, the pineapple house held a perfect, gentle peace. The storybook's pages glowed softly in the lamplight, the words flowing like gentle waves through the room. SpongeBob felt a warm, comforting glow spread through him, the kind that only comes from cozy nights with best friends, soft blankets, and magical dreams waiting to unfold. With Patrick finally asleep, SpongeBob carefully closed the book, letting the last words of the jellyfish story linger softly in the air. The lamp cast a golden glow over the couch, and the gentle hum of the fish tank seemed to sync with Patrick's slow, steady breathing. SpongeBob let out a contented sigh, curling deeper into the blanket beside his friend. For a few moments, he just stared out the window. The moonlight shimmered across the sand outside, painting the world in silvery streaks. Jellyfish floated lazily past, their soft glow reflecting in the window like tiny stars underwater. SpongeBob felt the warm, quiet magic of the night wrap around him. Suddenly, a tiny bubble popped near the couch, a soft, delicate plink, and SpongeBob's imagination kicked in. In his sleepy state, he could almost see the bubble as a tiny, glowing jellyfish, bobbing gently in the air, carrying messages from the night. Hello there, SpongeBob whispered softly to the bubble. Are you bringing me a bedtime secret? The bubble drifted lazily closer, reflecting the warm glow of the lamp, and then it popped gently on the edge of the blanket. SpongeBob giggled. Ah, just a sleepy night whisper, I guess. The currents of the ocean outside seemed to hum even softer now. SpongeBob stretched his fins and closed his eyes, letting his mind wander freely. In his imagination, he drifted through jellyfish fields again, this time with Patrick asleep beside him, floating in a warm cocoon of blankets and moonlight. He imagined them gliding past glowing coral reefs, tiny fish swirling like ribbons around their bodies. The soft seaweed swayed with the currents, creating gentle patterns that reminded him of a slow underwater dance. Every glow, every ripple, felt like it was lulling him deeper into the comfort of sleep. Patrick stirred slightly in his sleep, a soft snore escaping his lips, and SpongeBob smiled. Even in dreamland, buddy, you're still making everything cozier. The dreamscape in SpongeBob's mind became more vivid. They were no longer in their pineapple home, but floating gently above jellyfish fields, where the jellyfish glowed brighter than ever. Patrick, still half asleep in the dream, wobbled playfully as if trying to catch a jellyfish lantern with his fins. SpongeBob chuckled in his dream, guiding Patrick gently. Careful there, Patrick. We don't want to wake the whole ocean. Patrick's sleepy giggle floated through the currents. Oops, sorry. SpongeBob. They drifted past a coral arch where tiny plankton sparkled like scattered gems. SpongeBob reached out a fin and let the plankton swirl around him, tickling his fingers. See, Patrick? Even plankton know how to enjoy a cozy night. Patrick yawned again, letting his fins drift lazily in the dream currents. Yeah, cozy. Nice. The gentle movement of the dream currents, the soft glow of the jellyfish, and the calm hum of the ocean blended together into a lullaby that wrapped SpongeBob in complete serenity. Even in the middle of the night, the world felt perfectly safe, warm, and magical. SpongeBob sighed softly, leaning his head back on the pillow beside Patrick. The night, the ocean, the friends, perfect. And as he drifted deeper, the real world and dream world seemed to merge, with the cozy warmth of their pineapple home and the gentle glow of Jellyfish fields wrapping around them both. Every sound, every flicker of light, every soft movement of the water carried them further into a serene, peaceful sleep. The ocean outside whispered softly against the window, the currents carrying a lullaby just for SpongeBob and Patrick. Inside, the house was calm. The lamp glowed gently, and the two best friends floated between dreams and reality, embraced by the coziest night imaginable. Just as SpongeBob began to sink fully into the warm currents of dreamland, a tiny ripple of movement caught his half-closed eyes. In the dream, a curious little crab scuttled past, carrying a tiny, glowing lantern in its claw. SpongeBob blinked sleepily. Well, hello there. What are you up to at this hour? The crab paused, wiggled its claw, and then skittered forward, seemingly inviting SpongeBob and Patrick to follow. Patrick, still nestled in blankets and half asleep, mumbled, adventure? His voice was slow, dreamy, and full of wonder. Yes, Patrick, SpongeBob whispered, smiling in the dream. A gentle, nighttime adventure. Just the kind that fits our cozy mood. The two floated behind the tiny lantern crab, drifting over fields of glowing coral. The plankton shimmered like tiny stars scattered across the sand, and the jellyfish pulsed softly in colors that matched the lull of the currents. Everything moved slowly, rhythmically, like the ocean itself was exhaling a contented sigh. Patrick's sleepy voice whispered, SpongeBob, the lights. He pointed a lazy fin toward a patch of bioluminescent seaweed. The soft glow made everything look like it had been dusted with sparkling sugar. SpongeBob nodded, marveling at the gentle spectacle. Isn't it amazing, Patrick? Even at night, the ocean has its own magic to share. The little crab led them to a hidden cave, its entrance glowing faintly with soft golden light. SpongeBob peeked inside and saw that the cave was filled with tiny, floating bubbles, each one shimmering with a different color. They drifted lazily, some larger than others, carrying faint, sleepy melodies. Patrick's eyes widened a fraction in his sleep, and he whispered, music, bubbles, cozy. SpongeBob laughed softly, the sound blending with the lullaby of the bubbles. Exactly, Patrick. This is the magic of the night, a gentle, sleepy concert just for us. As they floated further into the cave, the currents wrapped around them like soft blankets, rocking them gently. The bubbles floated past, brushing softly against Patrick's starfish arms, and he let out a tiny snore of contentment. SpongeBob's mind felt light and free. He imagined every bubble carrying a tiny warm hug, every flicker of light a whisper of comfort. The ocean hummed along with the rhythm of their breaths, weaving a tapestry of serenity that seemed to stretch endlessly. A particularly large bubble floated between SpongeBob and Patrick, glowing with a soft pink hue. SpongeBob reached out in the dream, touching it gently. The bubble quivered, then popped silently, releasing a shower of tiny, sparkling lights that drifted like confetti in slow motion. Patrick stirred, murmuring, "Sparkles, cozy, love." He curled a little tighter into the blanket, his face soft with peaceful sleep. SpongeBob smiled, letting the tiny lights wash over them. "See, Patrick, even the smallest things can make the night magical, especially when we're together." Outside the cave, faint moonlight filtered through the water, creating silvery streaks across the dream currents. SpongeBob imagined the entire ocean gently nodding, as if the night itself approved of this gentle adventure. They floated there for a while, Patrick half asleep, SpongeBob fully immersed in the serene magic, letting the rhythm of the ocean guide them deeper into dreamland. Every bubble, every flicker of light, every soft ripple of the currents reminded them of the safety and warmth of the night, and of the unshakable comfort of friendship. As SpongeBob and Patrick drifted deeper into the cave, the gentle currents carried them to a sparkling underwater meadow. The sand shimmered with soft golden hues, as if sprinkled with tiny stars. Tiny sea critters peeked out from behind coral, blinking sleepily, their eyes reflecting the warm glow of the jellyfish lanterns above. Patrick let out a little yawn, his voice soft and dreamy. "SpongeBob, look, it's, like candy." SpongeBob smiled, following his friend's gaze. "It's even better than candy, Patrick. It's the magic of a cozy night, made just for sleepy adventurers like us." A small group of sea bunnies hopped lazily across the shimmering sand, their ears glowing faintly like fireflies. One nudged a tiny shell toward Patrick, who blinked in delight and mumbled, "A gift. For me?" SpongeBob chuckled, watching Patrick's sleepy fascination. "Looks like the night has little surprises for us, buddy. Even the tiniest creatures want to share the cozy magic." The two floated along, the currents carrying them past glowing seaweed towers and clusters of luminescent coral. Every movement was slow, every flicker of light gentle, like the ocean itself was humming a lullaby. Patrick reached out a lazy fin and brushed against the floating bubble. It shimmered in pinks and blues, tickling his fingers, and popped silently into a soft sparkle. "Huh, tickly. SpongeBob," he giggled sleepily. SpongeBob reached for another bubble, letting it drift lazily across his fins. "See, Patrick, even bubbles can bring comfort at night. They float, shimmer, and then disappear, leaving the calm behind." Patrick yawned again, curling a little tighter under the blanket of warmth surrounding them. "I, like calm." Just then a gentle gust of underwater current carried a faint, sweet scent, like the Krusty Krab's famous jellyfish jelly patty, only softer, dreamier, and perfect for bedtime. Patrick's nose twitched in delight. Smells like dream patties." SpongeBob laughed softly, his heart warmed by Patrick's sleepy joy. "Exactly, Patrick. It's a midnight treat for our dream adventure." Floating further into the meadow, SpongeBob imagined tiny floating trays appearing, carrying miniature Krabby Patties and soft, glowing coral cupcakes. Patrick's eyes widened just slightly in his sleep, and he murmured, "Yum, cozy treats." They nibbled slowly, savoring the dream flavors, each bite soft, warm, and perfectly comforting. The currents swirled gently around them, rocking them in a slow, hypnotic rhythm that felt like the ocean itself was cradling them. A group of tiny, glowing seahorses drifted past, carrying small lanterns that bobbed softly with each wave. They circled Patrick and SpongeBob, adding their gentle light to the calm magic of the night. Patrick giggled in his sleep, reaching a sleepy fin toward a lantern. "Shiny. SpongeBob. So cozy." SpongeBob smiled, letting the gentle creatures and glowing lights envelop them in a soft cocoon of calm. The night, the friends, the little wonders, all of it, perfect for bedtime, he whispered. The current slowed further, rocking them as if the ocean wanted to tuck them into a snug, invisible blanket. Patrick's soft snores blended with the hum of the sea, and SpongeBob's breathing fell into a steady rhythm, each inhale and exhale syncing with the gentle lullaby of the underwater night. Even the smallest bubbles seemed to float more slowly now, twinkling like tiny stars in a perfectly quiet sky. Every light, every ripple, every gentle swish of seaweed reminded them that they were safe, warm, and wrapped in the perfect cocoon of friendship and coziness. The dream began to shift ever so gently, as if the currents themselves were nudging SpongeBob and Patrick toward the coming morning. The golden glow of the underwater meadow softened into gentle shades of blue and lavender. Tiny bubbles floated more slowly, each carrying a faint shimmer of light, like the last notes of a lullaby. Patrick stirred slightly, letting out a soft yawn. SpongeBob is morning. Coming? He murmured sleepily. SpongeBob smiled, his square body floating lazily alongside his friend. Not just yet, Patrick. The night still has some magic left. But soon the sun will peek through the ocean, and we'll feel it brushing across the sand and coral. Patrick blinked slowly, wrapping his starfish arms around himself like a cozy little bundle. I like peek, son. SpongeBob chuckled softly. Me too, buddy. Me too. But until then, we can enjoy the calm of the currents, the gentle glow of the jellyfish, and the soft lull of the ocean. They floated through a soft patch of glowing kelp, its long strands swaying rhythmically with the currents. Each flicker of light, each gentle sway, seemed perfectly timed to lull them further into serene, sleepy contentment. Patrick's soft snores blended with the quiet hum of the sea, creating a perfect underwater lullaby. SpongeBob watched him with a fond smile. Even in dreams, Patrick, you make everything cozier, he whispered. A group of tiny bioluminescent fish darted past, tracing lazy loops in the water that sparkled like ribbons of light. SpongeBob imagined the ribbons wrapping around them, cradling them in warmth. See, Patrick? The ocean, it's giving us a hug. One soft ripple at a time, he said softly. Patrick murmured, half asleep. Ocean. Hug, SpongeBob. His eyelids drifted lower, his smile still tugging gently at the corners of his mouth. The currents carried them past the dream version of Jellyfish Fields. Even the familiar glowing jellyfish seemed slower, more delicate, their light fading softly as the night began to hint at the coming day. SpongeBob reached out a fin to gently touch one, feeling the faint pulse of its glow. "Good night, little jellyfish," he whispered. "Thanks for keeping our dreams magical." A gentle shimmer of light appeared in the distance, the softest hint of dawn beginning to touch the horizon. SpongeBob felt it in the dream currents, a tender warmth spreading through the water, weaving golden threads into the cool blues of night. Patrick stirred, letting out a tiny, dreamy sigh. "SpongeBob, sun peak. Nice." SpongeBob laughed softly, a sound like a ripple through the calm sea. "Yes, Patrick. Soon the sun will rise. But for now, let's enjoy these last moments of night magic." The soft glow of the dream world wrapped around them like a blanket, every ripple, every flicker of light, every tiny bubble moving in perfect harmony. Even the tiniest creatures of the ocean seemed to whisper, "Sleep well, drift safely, enjoy the calm." Patrick's breathing fell into a steady rhythm again, his starfish limbs curling gently in the blanket of warmth. SpongeBob let out a content sigh, feeling the gentle hug of currents and friendship surrounding him. The dream currents carried them past glowing coral towers, luminescent seaweed, and soft patches of sand, Each movement was slow, soothing, and rhythmic, as if the ocean itself was singing them a gentle lullaby, preparing them for the coming morning. SpongeBob whispered softly, "The night, the currents, the friends, everything. Perfect. Calm." His eyes drifted closed as the last flickers of the dream shimmered around them. And in that quiet, magical moment, the night's adventures began to slowly give way to the first hints of day, carrying SpongeBob and Patrick closer to waking, but still wrapped in the coziness of the most gentle, magical night. The first hints of sunlight began to filter softly through the water, painting gentle streaks across SpongeBob's dream world. The glowing jellyfish flickered faintly, casting tiny rainbows in the currents, as if giving a final farewell to the night. SpongeBob stirred slightly, a peaceful smile curling across his square face. Patrick, still curled in the warmth of the blanket, let out a sleepy murmur. "SpongeBob, morning coming, His starfish arms stretched lazily, embracing the last whispers of the dream currents. SpongeBob whispered back softly, "Yes, Patrick. The night's magic is almost done, but we'll carry its calm with us into the morning." The currents carried them gently toward the edge of Jellyfish fields. The glowing coral and soft sand shimmered faintly in the early light, while tiny plankton twinkled like underwater stars, bobbing lazily in the gentle waves. SpongeBob imagined them sending sleepy little goodbyes to everyone still wrapped in their dreams. Patrick let out a soft yawn, eyes fluttering. "Sun, warm, cozy," he murmured, curling just a little tighter under the blanket of currents and soft dream light. SpongeBob chuckled softly. "Exactly, Patrick. The sun is peaking, but the warmth of the night is still with us. That's the magic of a cozy adventure. It never truly ends." A small school of glowing fish passed by, swimming in gentle arcs around the friends. SpongeBob reached out, letting the soft light of the fish tickle his fins. "Even the tiniest friends, they're here to say good morning and good dreams," he whispered. Patrick muttered dreamily, "Friend, cozy, SpongeBob." His little starfish smile lingered even as he drifted closer to waking. The currents slowed further, rocking them gently, as if the ocean itself was tucking them into a snug, invisible bed. SpongeBob imagined tiny, glowing seashells appearing in the sand below, each one humming a soft, sleepy tune. The lullaby of the sea wrapped around them like a warm blanket. SpongeBob let out a deep, contented sigh. The night, the currents, the friends, everything perfect, calm. Patrick stirred once more, stretching his fins lazily and whispering, "Best night ever," before blinking slowly at the soft glow of the morning. Outside their dream world, the pineapple house basked in the early light filtering through the water. Gary stretched, letting out a tiny snail yawn, and the gentle currents rocked the seaweed outside in rhythm with the waking day. SpongeBob opened one dreamy eye, still half lost in the calm magic of the night. He smiled softly at Patrick, still wrapped in blankets on the couch. "Morning's here, buddy. But the calm of the night will stay with us, even as we start a new day." Patrick mumbled a sleepy agreement, curling back into the cozy warmth one last time. SpongeBob reached over and gently patted his friend's head. "Thanks for joining the late-night adventure, Patrick. It made the night even more magical." The last flickers of the dream currents shimmered around them, fading slowly into the soft, warm glow of morning. Jellyfish drifted lazily in the distance. The ocean's hum softened further, and even the tiniest bubbles floated slower, as if savoring the last notes of the lullaby. SpongeBob and Patrick's breaths fell into steady, peaceful rhythms, carrying them gently from dream into gentle wakefulness. The cozy magic of their late-night adventure lingered like a soft hug, wrapping the friends in warmth, calm, and the lingering joy of shared nighttime wonder. The currents whispered softly through the house, brushing past the window and rustling the curtains in a quiet, playful rhythm. SpongeBob yawned, stretching fully, and whispered, "Good morning, Bikini Bottom. Let's make today just as cozy as last night." Patrick stirred, smiling faintly in his half-asleep state. "Yeah, SpongeBob. Cozy day." And with that, the night in Bikini Bottom gently came to a close. The soft magic of dreams, friendship, and warm currents carried into the morning, leaving SpongeBob and Patrick wrapped in the perfect calm, ready to drift naturally into their next sleepy adventure. The ocean outside shimmered softly in the early sun, promising more laughter, gentle mischief, and magical, cozy nights ahead. The soft morning sun filtered through the ocean water, painting gentle golden streaks across the sandy streets of Bikini Bottom. Tiny fish darted lazily between coral towers, leaving glimmers of light in their wake. Jellyfish floated slowly, glowing faintly as if still carrying a whisper of last night's magic. Inside his pineapple house, SpongeBob stretched, letting out a contented yawn. The cozy warmth of his bed and the lingering magic of last night still hugged him like a soft, underwater blanket. Gary blinked sleepily, stretching his little snail body. Patrick was still curled up on the couch, a soft blanket draped over him. His starfish limbs twitched lazily in the early currents, and a faint, dreamy smile tugged at his mouth. SpongeBob tiptoed quietly past him, careful not to wake him too abruptly. "Morning already," SpongeBob whispered softly. "But the night still feels cozy. And the day is just beginning." He padded into the kitchen, his feet making gentle squish-squash noises on the soft floor. The fridge hummed quietly, holding all sorts of goodies for a perfect morning breakfast. SpongeBob opened it slowly, smiling at the neatly stacked jelly jars, fresh buns, and tiny, glimmering Krabby Patties waiting for them. Outside, the currents of the ocean moved gently, rocking the sand and seaweed in soft waves. SpongeBob peeked through the window, noticing a few jellyfish lazily floating near the surface, their soft glow still faintly visible in the morning light. He giggled softly. "Even the jellyfish didn't want the night to end too quickly," he murmured. Patrick's voice floated from the couch, muffled by his blanket. "SpongeBob, morning. Cozy." SpongeBob turned, smiling warmly. "Don't worry, Patrick. It's still cozy. The day can be gentle, too. And I have just the plan." Patrick's eyelids fluttered open just enough to see SpongeBob holding a small tray of tiny breakfast treats, Krabby Patty sliders, jelly-filled donuts, and a few seaweed muffins. "Snacks in the morning. Best day ever," he mumbled sleepily. SpongeBob set the tray carefully on the table beside Patrick. "Breakfast first, then we can plan our gentle morning adventure," he said softly. Patrick slowly reached out a sleepy fin, picking up a mini Krabby Patty. SpongeBob. Perfect. Cozy," he murmured between bites, closing his eyes and savoring the warmth of the food. The two friends ate quietly, the soft hum of the kitchen and the distant ocean currents creating a calm, rhythmic backdrop. Outside, the coral swayed gently, and tiny bubbles floated lazily past the window. Every movement, every flicker of light, every soft hum of the water felt like the ocean itself was encouraging them to savor this gentle, magical morning. SpongeBob munched on his muffin, smiling as Patrick let out a contented sigh. "I love cozy mornings," Patrick murmured. SpongeBob laughed softly. Me too, Patrick. Mornings like this, calm, warm, and full of soft little surprises, are the best. After a few more bites, Patrick yawned again, curling back under the blanket. SpongeBob chuckled and reached over to gently pat him on the head. Rest a little longer, buddy. The currents will carry us gently when it's time for our next adventure. Patrick's soft snore returned, mixing perfectly with the gentle bubbling of the fish tank and the calm hum of the kitchen. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the gentle rhythm of the ocean flow around them. The day can wait. For now, just cozy, calm, perfect, he whispered. Outside, the golden sunlight shimmered across the sand, turning tiny grains into sparkling flecks that danced with the currents. Jellyfish glowed faintly in the soft morning light, and every gentle ripple of water seemed to sing a quiet lullaby, carrying the warmth of the night into the promise of the new day. SpongeBob closed his eyes for a moment, letting the gentle morning currents wrap around him like a soft hug. He imagined floating lazily through jellyfish fields again, Patrick beside him, both of them wrapped in the perfect calm of a gentle, magical day. After breakfast, SpongeBob gently helped Patrick sit up on the couch, the soft blanket still draped around him. "Ready for a calm morning adventure, buddy?" SpongeBob whispered with a grin. Patrick blinked slowly, stretching his starfish arms and letting out a sleepy yawn. "Adventure? Slow, cozy?" he murmured, already smiling despite still being half asleep. SpongeBob giggled. "Exactly. Slow, calm, and cozy, just the way morning should be. Let's take a gentle stroll through Bikini Bottom, see who's awake, and enjoy the soft morning currents." The two friends padded outside, SpongeBob in his square slippers, and Patrick still dragging the blanket slightly behind him like a sleepy cape. The streets of Bikini Bottom glimmered softly under the warm morning light. Tiny bubbles drifted lazily past, catching the sunlight and scattering it into sparkling arcs. The first neighbor they passed was Squidward, who peeked grumpily from his window. He had a half-open eye and a slight frown, but even he couldn't hide the faint blush of morning light dancing across his face. SpongeBob waved cheerfully. "Good morning, Squidward," SpongeBob called softly, careful not to startle him. Squidward sighed, a tiny, reluctant smile tugging at the corners of his beak-like mouth. "Morning, SpongeBob. Patrick. Keep it down," he muttered, already retreating back into the calm of his house. Patrick whispered dreamily, "Even Squidward. Sleepy cozy." SpongeBob chuckled. "Yep. Mornings like this make everyone a little softer, even Squidward." They continued their gentle stroll, passing Sandy Cheek's tree dome. The soft glow of her underwater garden peeked through the glass, leaves sparkling with tiny droplets of water. Sandy was just finishing her morning stretches, her suit slightly fogged from the soft, humid air inside the tree dome. "Howdy, SpongeBob. Morning, Patrick," she called in her usual cheerful drawl, though softer than usual. "Perfect day for a gentle stroll, huh?" Patrick nodded sleepily, his arms stretched wide like a starfish sunbeam. "Perfect. Stroll. Cozy. Sandy." Sandy giggled softly. "Well, y'all enjoy yourselves. I'll be tending the garden, slow and steady, like the morning calls for." SpongeBob and Patrick waved as they continued down the street. The ocean currents carried the scent of soft sea flowers and freshly tilled sand, mixing with the faint aroma of leftover Krabby Patty warmth in the morning air. They passed Mr. Crab's restaurant, the Krusty Krab, which was still quiet. A single puff of smoke rose lazily from the chimney, curling gently with the currents. SpongeBob peeked in and whispered, "Even the Krusty Krab takes it easy on mornings like this." Patrick yawned. "Quiet. Smells like, Dreams. His smile lingered as he dragged the blanket along, barely noticing the soft sand beneath his feet. The two friends reached Jellyfish Fields where the sunlight streamed through the water in golden shafts. Jellyfish floated lazily into the currents, glowing faintly from last night's magic. SpongeBob and Patrick watched them drift, mesmerized by the soft, hypnotic rhythm of their movements. SpongeBob whispered, "See, Patrick? Even in the day, the ocean can be calm, magical, and cozy." Patrick nodded slowly, his eyes half closed. Magical. Cozy. Friends. SpongeBob. A gentle current brushed past them, carrying tiny bubbles that floated lazily around their fins. SpongeBob reached out, letting a few drift between his fingers, shimmering softly before popping silently in the morning light. Patrick giggled in a sleep-kerbubbly way. Tickly. Cozy love. SpongeBob laughed softly, feeling his heart swell with warmth. Every day can be a cozy adventure, Patrick. As long as we take it slow, enjoy the currents, and share it together. The two friends drifted further into the fields, letting the sunlight, currents, and gentle hum of the ocean guide them through the calm, magical morning. The world was alive but soft, playful yet soothing, just the perfect pace for a cozy underwater day. As SpongeBob and Patrick wandered deeper into Jellyfish Fields, the soft currents carried a gentle hum through the water. Every ripple, every tiny bubble seemed to dance lazily in the sunlight. The jellyfish glowed faintly, their gentle pulses creating a natural underwater lullaby that wrapped the friends in a cocoon of calm. Patrick yawned, stretching his arms wide. SpongeBob. Feels soft, cozy. Jellyfish, he murmured dreamily. SpongeBob giggled, reaching out a fin to let a few jellyfish float past, brushing gently against his fingertips. Yep, Patrick. The morning currents make everything feel peaceful, magical, and slow. They floated past a small coral archway, where tiny, glowing fish peeked curiously at them. The fish shimmered with soft colors, blues, pinks, and golds, weaving patterns in the sunlight. SpongeBob followed their dance, marveling at the slow rhythm of their movements. "Look, Patrick," SpongeBob whispered. "The tiny fish are putting on a morning show, just for us." Patrick blinked slowly, his mouth curling into a sleepy smile. "Morning? Show? Cozy? SpongeBob?" The friends drifted toward a gentle rise in the sand, where a small patch of sea anemones swayed in the currents. SpongeBob imagined the anemones singing soft notes as they moved, creating a gentle symphony alongside the humming jellyfish. Patrick reached out a sleepy fin, brushing against the soft tendrils. "Soft. Tickly. Nice," he murmured. His eyes fluttered closed briefly as the currents rocked him slightly, keeping him perfectly balanced between alert curiosity and sleepy calm. SpongeBob floated beside him, letting the warm currents wrap around them like invisible blankets. He imagined tiny bubbles appearing from the sand, each carrying a soft whisper of the ocean. "See, Patrick, every little ripple, every shimmer, every gentle movement is part of the cozy morning magic," he said softly. A soft gust of underwater current carried a faint, sweet scent, the familiar aroma of jellyfish jelly wafting from a distant patch of coral. Patrick's nose twitched as he murmured, Smells like dreams." SpongeBob chuckled, glancing at his friend's sleepy grin. "Yep. Even the scents of the morning are gentle and playful, perfect for slow, cozy adventure." A tiny group of seahorses floated by, carrying little glowing shells in their fins. They circled Patrick and SpongeBob gently, leaving a trail of faint, sparkling light behind them. Patrick's eyes opened just slightly, his sleepy smile widening. Shiny shells. Cozy. SpongeBob reached out, letting a few bubbles drift lazily between his fingers, watching them shimmer in the sunlight. Every little detail, every tiny friend, is part of the magic of a calm, underwater morning, he whispered. Patrick yawned again, curling his arms closer to his body. Magic. SpongeBob. Love. SpongeBob nodded, letting the currents guide them further through the fields. The warm, golden sunlight filtered softly through the water, making the sand sparkle like tiny stars scattered across the ocean floor. The gentle movement of the currents, the playful glimmer of bubbles, and the soft hum of the sea blended together into a peaceful rhythm that invited slow, calm exploration. They drifted past a soft patch of glowing coral, where tiny critters peeked from their hideouts, curious but gentle. SpongeBob imagined each one saying a quiet good morning, welcoming them into the calm beauty of the underwater world. Patrick let out a tiny sigh, eyes still half closed. Underwater morning, perfect, SpongeBob? SpongeBob chuckled softly, feeling a warmth in his heart. Yes, Patrick. Perfect. Cozy. Calm. Just the way mornings should be. The currents slowed further, rocking them gently as they floated past the last stretch of jellyfish fields before the open sandy plains. Every shimmer, every tiny flicker of light, every soft swish of seaweed reminded them of the calm and magic that the ocean held a perfect start to a gentle, magical day. As SpongeBob and Patrick drifted from jellyfish fields toward the open sandy plains, they noticed a gentle shimmer in the distance. It was Sandy Cheeks, practicing her slow morning stretches outside the tree dome. The sunlight filtered through her dome, casting warm, golden patterns across the sand. Howdy, SpongeBob. Morning, Patrick, Sandy called softly, her usual high energy softened by the calm of the gentle currents. Looks like a perfect day for a slow stroll through the morning currents. Patrick blinked lazily, stretching his arms. Perfect. Cozy. Sandy, he murmured, letting the blanket trail behind him like a sleepy cape. SpongeBob waved, grinning. Morning, Sandy. We're just taking in the gentle beauty of Bikini Bottom before the day gets busy. Care to join us? Sandy chuckled softly. I'd love to, but I'm just finishing my stretches. Slow mornings like this are precious, especially with all the busy days ahead. Y'all enjoy yourselves. The currents carried soft scents of sea flowers and warm sand toward them, blending with the faint aroma of Krabby Patties from the Krusty Krab in the distance. SpongeBob inhaled deeply, letting the cozy morning atmosphere fill him. Patrick yawned and stretched again. Smells like, cozy dreams. They floated past a group of tiny plankton, lazily drifting along the currents, each casting faint glimmers of light. SpongeBob imagined them waving a sleepy hello, their tiny forms glowing softly like morning stars. Even the tiniest creatures join in on the cozy morning magic, SpongeBob whispered to Patrick. Patrick smiled sleepily. Magic. SpongeBob. Friends. The two friends continued along the gentle sandy plains where tiny sea plants swayed softly with the currents. Each movement was hypnotic, rhythmic, and slow perfect for a cozy morning adventure. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting a few bubbles float between his fingers, watching them shimmer in the soft sunlight. A small school of colorful fish darted lazily around them, their scales catching the light in soft, muted rainbows. Patrick's eyes widened just slightly in his half-asleep state. Shiny. Fish. Cozy. SpongeBob laughed softly. Yep, Patrick. Even the little fish know how to enjoy a gentle morning. As they drifted further, they reached the edge of Goo Lagoon, where the shallow waters glimmered like liquid gold. The sunlight danced across the waves, creating soft patterns on the sandy floor below. The gentle ebb and flow of the tide moved them slowly, like a lullaby carried by the ocean itself. Patrick's arms drifted lazily, touching the warm currents, feeling the soft movement of the water. SpongeBob. Warm, gentle. Love, he murmured. SpongeBob smiled, letting the currents wrap around them like invisible blankets. Yes, Patrick. Mornings like this remind us that even in the brightest daylight, the ocean can be just as cozy and magical as the night. A few jellyfish floated lazily near the surface, their gentle glow still faintly visible in the morning light. SpongeBob reached out, letting one brush against his fin. Thanks for staying with us, little friend. You make the morning even more special, he whispered softly. Patrick yawned again, curling slightly as the soft currents rocked him gently. SpongeBob, best morning. They continued along the shore, letting the gentle hum of the ocean, the shimmering light of the fish, and the soft movement of the sand create a perfect rhythm. Every tiny flicker of light, every ripple of water, every soft sound from the ocean blended together into a cocoon of calm that carried them deeper into a cozy, magical day. SpongeBob glanced at Patrick, who was drifting lazily with the currents, smiling even in his sleepy state. The morning, the ocean, the friends, everything. Perfect, SpongeBob whispered, feeling the warmth of calm adventure fill him completely. SpongeBob and Patrick continued their gentle stroll along the soft sandy plains near Goo Lagoon. The sunlight shimmered across the water, turning tiny grains of sand into sparkling flecks that danced with every gentle current. Patrick's sleepy eyes followed the playful light, his half-open mouth forming a lazy, contented smile. SpongeBob. Sparkling, cozy, love, Patrick murmured, reaching out a lazy fin to touch the twinkling sand. Each grain felt like a soft tickle, brushing against his skin like tiny whispers of comfort. SpongeBob chuckled softly, letting his fingers trail through the water, stirring up soft clouds of sand. Yes, Patrick. It's like the ocean itself is sharing a little morning magic with us, just for being calm and cozy. A small school of tiny glowing fish passed by, tracing lazy arcs through the currents. They shimmered in colors that reminded SpongeBob of soft pastels, pinks, blues, and gentle greens that flickered as the sunlight passed through the water. Patrick giggled in his half-asleep way. Pretty, fish. Like, sleepy stars? SpongeBob nodded, smiling at the playful, gentle beauty. Exactly, Patrick. Even the fish join in on the slow, cozy morning magic. They drifted further along the soft, sandy floor, coming across a small cluster of seashells that glimmered faintly. SpongeBob imagined each shell carrying a tiny lullaby, humming soft notes as the currents brushed past them. Patrick leaned closer, his starfish arms brushing against a glowing shell. Soft music. SpongeBob. SpongeBob grinned. The ocean has music everywhere. You just have to float slowly enough to hear it. As they floated near a gentle patch of waving seaweed, a few tiny critters peeked out, shy little crabs and snails, their eyes blinking sleepily. Patrick whispered softly, "Hi, little friends. Cozy." His voice was so calm and gentle that even the tiny critters seemed to nod and wave in response. SpongeBob laughed quietly, enjoying the subtle rhythm of life all around them. See, Patrick? The ocean is full of little wonders, and they all move at the perfect pace for a slow, magical morning. A faint swirl of currents carried them toward a shallow lagoon where the water shimmered like liquid glass. Jellyfish floated lazily near the surface, their soft glow mixing with the morning sunlight, creating streaks of warm, cozy colors across the sand. SpongeBob reached out, letting one float through his fingers. "Thanks for staying with us. You make this morning even more special," he whispered. Patrick yawned, curling slightly in the blanket trailing behind him. "SpongeBob, best morning ever." SpongeBob smiled, letting the currents rock them gently. "Every morning can be perfect, Patrick. As long as we move slowly, enjoy the little wonders, and share it together." As they continued, the lagoon's gentle waves created soft patterns on the sand, rippling in perfect rhythm with the currents. Tiny bubbles floated lazily upward, shimmering like miniature stars before popping silently in the calm water. Patrick reached out, letting a few tickle his fins. Cozy. Tickly. Love. SpongeBob laughed softly, feeling his heart swell with warmth. Every little moment, every shimmer, every ripple is part of the magic of a slow, cozy morning. The two friends drifted toward a small patch of soft coral shaped like tiny hills and tunnels. Patrick crawled slowly through the openings, giggling in a sleep and dreamy way. SpongeBob followed, gently pushing aside a soft coral branch. "Even adventures can be slow and gentle, as long as we take our time," he whispered. Patrick peeked out of a tiny tunnel, smiling faintly. "Adventure. Cozy. SpongeBob?" SpongeBob nodded, letting the soft currents carry them further along the lagoon. The golden sunlight, gentle hum of the water, tiny shimmering fish, and playful coral tunnels all blended into a perfect rhythm, a symphony of calm, magical, underwater serenity. The soft currents guided SpongeBob and Patrick toward the edge of the lagoon, where the water began to shimmer more brightly in the gentle morning sun. Every tiny ripple sparkled, carrying faint echoes of last night's calm magic. Patrick's starfish limbs floated lazily, brushing against the warm sand as he whispered softly, "SpongeBob, shimmer, cozy, love." SpongeBob grinned, letting a few tiny bubbles drift between his fingers. "Yep, Patrick. Every shimmer, every ripple is the ocean's way of saying good morning in the softest way possible." A small school of glowing fish swirled gently around them, their pastel colors blending with the sunlight in delicate, lazy arcs. SpongeBob imagined each one as a tiny painter, adding soft strokes of pink, blue, and gold to the morning canvas. Patrick blinked slowly, smiling. "Pretty colors. Sleepy, SpongeBob." The friends drifted past a gentle cluster of waving seaweed. Tiny snails peeked out from the fronds, their shells glinting faintly. SpongeBob leaned closer, whispering, "Good morning, little friends. Thanks for sharing the calm with us." Patrick yawned softly, curling a bit tighter in the warmth of the gentle currents. They floated toward a small patch of coral shaped like tiny hills and tunnels. Patrick's eyes sparkled faintly with sleepy curiosity. Tunnel. Cozy. SpongeBob. SpongeBob guided him gently through a coral archway. The currents flowed softly, pushing them along like invisible hands, each ripple a reminder of the ocean's embrace. Tiny bubbles followed them, catching the sunlight and scattering gentle glimmers around the friends. A soft hum of distant underwater life reached them, the faint laughter of a faraway fish, the gentle swish of kelp, the muted call of a sleepy crab. SpongeBob smiled. Even the faraway sounds are calm, perfect for a slow morning adventure. Patrick stretched his arms lazily, letting a few tiny bubbles brush against his face. Tickly, cozy, SpongeBob. They floated near the surface where the sunlight filtered through in golden beams. Jellyfish glided slowly, their soft glow blending with the warm rays, creating a magical dance of light and color. SpongeBob reached out, letting one drift through his fingers. Even the jellyfish are taking their time. "Enjoying the morning as much as we are," he whispered. Patrick giggled softly, curling into the gentle current. "Slow magic. SpongeBob, love." The currents carried them further toward a soft patch of sand near the lagoon's edge. Tiny starfish, like Patrick, but much smaller, peeked out from the sand, their little limbs waving gently. SpongeBob whispered, "Look, Patrick, friends everywhere, even tiny ones, all enjoying the calm morning." Patrick smiled, eyes half closed. "Friends, cozy, perfect." The friends drifted past a soft coral wall which opened into a shallow cove where the currents moved in gentle swirls. SpongeBob imagined the cove as a hidden room, crafted by the ocean to be the perfect resting place for sleepy adventurers. Patrick nestled closer to SpongeBob, letting the calm currents carry him like a warm, invisible blanket. SpongeBob sighed softly, letting the peaceful rhythm of the lagoon envelop them. The morning, the currents, the friends, the sunlight, everything. Perfect. Calm. The golden rays of the sun shimmered on the sandy floor, creating tiny dancing reflections that moved in perfect harmony with the gentle swaying of the coral. Each bubble, each flicker of light, every soft movement of the currents combined to form a symphony of tranquility. Patrick let out a contented sigh, curling into a small ball and murmuring, "SpongeBob, best morning ever." SpongeBob smiled warmly, feeling the cozy, magical morning wrap around him like a soft hug. The currents carried them slowly, lazily, toward the final stretch of their morning journey, each gentle ripple reminding them that the ocean was full of calm, cozy adventures, waiting for those who moved slowly enough to notice. SpongeBob and Patrick drifted toward the last stretch of their morning stroll, the currents carrying them lazily along the sandy floor. Golden sunlight shimmered across the water, creating sparkling streaks that danced in perfect rhythm with the gentle sway of seaweed and coral. Patrick's sleepy eyes followed the glowing reflections, a soft smile tugging at his mouth. SpongeBob, sparkling, cozy, perfect, he murmured. SpongeBob chuckled softly, letting a few tiny bubbles drift through his fingers. "Exactly, Patrick. Mornings like this are meant to be slow, gentle, and full of little wonders." As they reached a small, secluded patch of coral, a few jellyfish floated lazily nearby. Their soft glow mingled with the sunlight, creating ribbons of light that wrapped around SpongeBob and Patrick like a delicate underwater blanket. Patrick reached out a sleepy fin, letting a jellyfish brush gently against him. Tickly. Soft. "SpongeBob." SpongeBob smiled, whispering, "Even the smallest creatures share in the morning magic, reminding us to enjoy the calm and the quiet." The currents guided them past tiny clusters of glowing shells, each one shimmering faintly in the soft light. SpongeBob imagined the shells carrying little lullabies, each note blending perfectly with the gentle hum of the ocean. Patrick listened in half-awake wonder, murmuring, "Music, cozy, magic." As they floated further, the sunlight grew a little stronger, signaling that the gentle morning was slowly transitioning toward afternoon. Still, the ocean's rhythm remained calm, soft, and comforting. Every ripple, every bubble, every flicker of light seemed to whisper, "Enjoy the moment. Take it slow. The magic is here." Patrick yawned and curled closer to SpongeBob, letting the blanket of currents wrap around him. "SpongeBob, love, cozy, best day." SpongeBob gently patted his friend, smiling warmly. "Yes, Patrick, the day is perfect because we're together, enjoying the calm, and letting the magic of the ocean carry us. They floated past a gentle sandbank where tiny crabs peeked from their burrows, waving sleepy claws in quiet greeting. SpongeBob whispered, "Good morning, little friends. Thanks for sharing this calm day with us." Patrick's eyes fluttered closed as he murmured softly, "Morning, friends. SpongeBob." The soft currents guided them toward a small cove where the shallow water reflected the warm sunlight in golden patterns across the sand. Jellyfish, glowing faintly, drifted through the currents as if choreographed for the perfect slow-motion ballet. SpongeBob reached out, letting a few bubbles float lazily past him. "See, Patrick, the ocean has its own way of showing us magic, even in the daytime," he whispered. Patrick smiled in his sleepy, dreamy way. "Magic, SpongeBob, calm, love." The gentle hum of the lagoon, the shimmering sunlight, and the playful currents wrapped around them like a soft, invisible blanket. Every tiny flicker, every ripple, every shimmer of light added to the symphony of tranquility that carried them through the morning. SpongeBob let out a deep, contented sigh. The currents, the sunlight, the friends, everything. Perfect. Cozy. Magical. Patrick nuzzled closer to SpongeBob, letting the warm currents embrace him. Completely. Best. Adventure. SpongeBob. As they floated in quiet serenity, the golden light of the day mingled with the last hints of the soft morning currents. The ocean seemed to hum softly, singing a lullaby that promised slow, peaceful moments and gentle adventures yet to come. SpongeBob whispered softly, "The day is just beginning, Patrick. But we can carry this calm, this cozy magic, with us, wherever we go." Patrick sighed happily, eyes closed, drifting comfortably in the warm, gentle flow. Carry magic, SpongeBob, always. And so the friends let the currents carry them one last time through the soft, sparkling waters of the lagoon. The morning had been slow, peaceful, and filled with the quiet magic of friendship. Every shimmer, every ripple, every gentle movement reminded them that Bikini Bottom was a world full of cozy, magical moments, waiting patiently for those who drifted slowly enough to notice. The sunlight grew a little stronger, and the ocean's hum blended seamlessly with the soft whispers of the currents, wrapping SpongeBob and Patrick in the perfect embrace of a calm, magical morning, a morning that would linger in their hearts, warm, cozy, and full of gentle joy, long after the currents had carried them to the next adventure. The golden afternoon sunlight filtered through the warm, wavy currents of Bikini Bottom, turning the sand into tiny, sparkling diamonds. The gentle sway of seaweed and the soft hum of the lagoon carried a peaceful rhythm, inviting anyone nearby to slow down and simply float along. SpongeBob and Patrick drifted lazily through the soft currents, still wrapped in the cozy magic of the morning. Patrick dragged his blanket behind him like a sleepy cape, eyes half closed as he murmured, "SpongeBob. Warm, sparkling, cozy." SpongeBob giggled softly. "Patrick, do you feel that? The currents are just perfect today. I can almost imagine us catching the most gentle, magical jellyfish ever." Patrick's eyes opened just a little, his sleepy smile widening. Jellyfish. SpongeBob. Soft. Dreamy. The two friends floated toward Jellyfish Fields, their minds wandering to the fun they would have later. They imagined nets gliding lazily through the water, catching shimmering jellyfish that glowed like tiny stars. Even in the slow, calm afternoon, the excitement of their favorite hobby made their hearts flutter with joy, but in a gentle, cozy way. SpongeBob reached out, letting a few tiny bubbles drift through his fingers. "Just imagine, Patrick, The jellyfish floating slowly, their soft glow wrapping us in magic. Patrick giggled softly, letting his arms drift lazily. Soft, glow, cozy, SpongeBob. Nearby, a few tiny jellyfish floated lazily through the currents, their faint glow still visible in the warm sunlight. SpongeBob pointed gently. Look, Patrick. Practice for our dreams. They're just floating along, waiting for us to join them. Patrick reached out a sleepy fin, letting one brush gently past him. Tickly. Perfect. SpongeBob. They floated past playful coral hills and tiny tunnels, imagining them as secret hiding spots where jellyfish might rest. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Even the coral wants to make our jellyfishing adventure gentle, magical, and cozy." Patrick crawled slowly through a small coral arch, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnel. Magical. Cozy. The currents carried the soft hum of distant underwater life, the faint laughter of a tiny fish, the gentle swish of kelp, the muted call of a sleepy crab. SpongeBob smiled, letting the soothing rhythm of the lagoon wrap around them. Even the other creatures seemed to know, today is a day for gentle jellyfishing dreams. Patrick yawned and curled slightly in the warm flow. SpongeBob. Best cozy. Dreams. The friends drifted toward a small patch of glowing coral, imagining the tiny hills as perfect spots to hide their nets for a slow, magical jellyfishing session. Tiny bubbles floated upward, sparkling like miniature stars before popping silently in the soft currents. SpongeBob reached out to let a few brush past his fin. Every shimmer, every ripple adds to the magic of our gentle jellyfishing dreams, he whispered. Patrick giggled softly, curling closer in the warm currents. Magic. SpongeBob. Cozy. SpongeBob smiled warmly, feeling the playful rhythm of the lagoon carry them along. The golden sunlight, shimmering bubbles, gentle coral, and faint hum of underwater life blended together, creating a perfect symphony for a slow, dreamy afternoon of jellyfishing imagination. SpongeBob and Patrick floated deeper into jellyfish fields, the soft golden light of the afternoon wrapping the ocean in a cozy glow. The gentle currents carried them lazily over the soft sand, brushing past coral towers and waving seaweed. Patrick tugged at his blanket, letting it drift behind him like a sleepy tail, and murmured, SpongeBob. Soft. Sparkle. Jellyfish. SpongeBob grinned, pointing ahead. Just imagine, Patrick. Hundreds of jellyfish floating slowly, glowing gently like tiny stars. They're all waiting for us, in the most magical way. Patrick's eyes half closed, drifting in the slow current. Stars. Swim. Cozy. SpongeBob. A few tiny jellyfish glided lazily nearby, their soft pulsating glow illuminating the soft sandy floor. SpongeBob reached out a fin and let one float through his fingers, marveling at the way it shimmered in the golden afternoon sunlight. See, Patrick? SpongeBob whispered. Even the jellyfish are practicing their slow, magical dance, just for us. Patrick giggled softly, reaching out a lazy arm. Tickly. Perfect. SpongeBob. The two friends drifted past a soft coral archway, imagining it as the entrance to a hidden jellyfish haven. SpongeBob imagined nets floating gently through the currents, catching a few glimmering jellyfish in a calm, playful dance, all without hurting them, of course. Patrick crawled slowly through the archway, smiling sleepily. SpongeBob. Tunnel. Glowing, cozy. The currents carried the distant sounds of gentle underwater life. The faint laughter of a tiny fish, the soft swish of kelp, the sleepy call of a crab. SpongeBob whispered softly, even the ocean knows today is for gentle jellyfishing dreams, slow, magical, and cozy. Patrick yawned and curled closer to SpongeBob, letting the currents embrace him like an invisible blanket. SpongeBob, best dreamy, Jellyfish. A small school of colorful fish floated lazily nearby, their scales shimmering in soft pinks, blues, and golds. Patrick watched them with sleepy fascination. Pretty, fish. Sparkling. SpongeBob. SpongeBob laughed softly. Every shimmer, every ripple, every tiny creature is part of the magic of jellyfishing, even when we're only imagining it. They reached a small, shallow lagoon where golden sunlight created dancing reflections on the sand below. Tiny bubbles floated upward, shimmering before popping gently. SpongeBob let a few drift past his fingers, imagining them as miniature jellyfish floating in slow motion. Patrick giggled softly. Tiny. Stars. Swim. SpongeBob. The two friends paused near a gentle patch of glowing coral hills, imagining it as the perfect hiding spot for their jellyfishing nets. SpongeBob whispered, Just picture it, Patrick. A slow, magical afternoon filled with gentle currents, shimmering jellyfish, and soft sunlight. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic. SpongeBob. Cozy, friends? A few tiny crabs peeked shyly from the coral, their little claws waving in quiet greeting. SpongeBob whispered, Even the tiniest friends are part of our cozy jellyfishing adventure today. Patrick yawned, curling his arms closer to himself. Friends. Sparkling, perfect SpongeBob. The currents gently carried them past shimmering coral and soft sand patches, each movement adding to the sleepy, magical rhythm of the afternoon. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warmth of the golden sunlight and the calm embrace of the lagoon. Every shimmer, every ripple, every soft glow. It's all part of the gentle magic of jellyfishing, he whispered, letting the currents guide them lazily forward. Patrick murmured sleepily, Magic. SpongeBob. Cozy. Jellyfish. And so SpongeBob and Patrick drifted deeper into their dreamy jellyfishing adventure, letting the soft currents, glowing jellyfish, and shimmering lagoon lull them into a calm, playful, and magical underwater afternoon. SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily toward a gentle bend in Jellyfish Fields, where the sunlight filtered through the soft currents, making the sand sparkle like a blanket of tiny golden stars. The shimmering water created ribbons of light that danced slowly around the friends, wrapping them in a cocoon of calm. Patrick yawned, tugging his blanket closer, murmuring, SpongeBob, sparkle, cozy, jellyfish. SpongeBob smiled warmly. Yep, Patrick. The ocean itself is part of our jellyfishing dreams today. Every ripple, every shimmer, every tiny flicker of light is magical. Nearby, a few glowing jellyfish floated lazily in the currents, their soft glow pulsing in slow, soothing rhythm. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift gently through his fingers. See? Even the jellyfish know how to move slowly, gently, perfectly, just like our daydream. Patrick giggled softly, eyes half closed. Tickly, soft, cozy. SpongeBob. They drifted past a small cluster of coral shaped like playful tunnels and gentle hills. SpongeBob imagined it as a secret jellyfishing playground where the smallest creatures could hide and peek out, joining in the gentle fun. Patrick crawled slowly through a tiny coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob, tunnel, glowing, magical. SpongeBob nodded, letting the currents carry him lazily along. Even the coral seems to know today is made for slow, cozy, magical jellyfishing dreams. A soft hum of distant underwater life surrounded them, the faint laughter of a tiny fish, the gentle swish of kelp, and the sleepy calls of crabs. Each sound blended perfectly into the cozy rhythm of their adventure. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the ocean is playing along. Everything is slow, gentle, and calm." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible blanket. "SpongeBob, best cozy, jellyfish." Floating past a soft patch of seaweed, they noticed tiny critters peeking curiously from behind the fronds. SpongeBob whispered, "Look, Patrick, everyone wants to join our gentle jellyfishing daydream." Patrick giggled softly, reaching out a fin. "Friends, magical, SpongeBob." A school of tiny, shimmering fish lazily swirled around them, their scales flickering soft pastels of pink, blue, and gold. SpongeBob pointed and whispered, "Every shimmer, every movement adds to the calm magic of jellyfishing." Patrick's eyes blinked slowly, filled with sleepy delight. Sparkling, cozy, magical. SpongeBob. They floated toward a shallow lagoon where the sunlight created golden patterns on the sandy floor. Tiny bubbles drifted lazily upward, shimmering in the warm glow before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined each bubble as a miniature jellyfish, floating gently in slow motion. Patrick giggled quietly. "Tiny stars, swim, SpongeBob." SpongeBob reached out, letting a few bubbles glide past his fingers. "Even the smallest details, the tiniest creatures, are part of the magic of a calm jellyfishing afternoon," he whispered. Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents cradle him like a soft, invisible blanket. "Magic, SpongeBob, cozy, jellyfish." The friends floated past a gentle sandbank where tiny starfish peeked out from their little homes, waving sleepy limbs. SpongeBob whispered, "See, Patrick? Even the smallest friends join in on our gentle, playful jellyfishing adventure." Patrick's half-closed eyes sparkled faintly. "Friends, sparkling, cozy, SpongeBob." The currents carried them further along the sparkling lagoon, every shimmer and ripple adding to the soft, magical rhythm. SpongeBob smiled, letting the warm sunlight and gentle flow of the currents wrap around him. "Every shimmer, every ripple, every tiny glow is part of our slow, dreamy jellyfishing adventure," he whispered softly. Patrick giggled in a sleepy whisper. "Dreamy, SpongeBob, cozy, magic." And so they drifted lazily onward, deeper into their gentle jellyfishing dreams, letting the golden sunlight, shimmering currents, glowing jellyfish, and soft whispers of the ocean carry them further into a calm, magical afternoon. SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily deeper into jellyfish fields, the sunlight dancing across the soft sandy floor like golden ribbons. Every ripple of the currents seemed to hum gently, carrying the faint sounds of distant underwater life, sleepy crabs tapping tiny claws, the soft swish of waving kelp, and the muffled giggles of distant fish. Patrick yawned, tugging his blanket closer. "SpongeBob, sparkle, soft jellyfish." SpongeBob smiled warmly. "Yes, Patrick. Today we're going to drift through our dreams of jellyfishing. Slow, calm, and magical. Every jellyfish we imagine, every shimmer we see, adds to the perfect afternoon." Ahead, a few tiny jellyfish floated lazily, their soft glow mingling with the golden sunlight. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one glide gently past him. "See, they're practicing their slow, magical dance. Just for us." Patrick giggled softly. "Tickly. Glowing. SpongeBob." The currents guided them past playful coral hills and tunnels, which SpongeBob imagined as secret hiding spots for the jellyfish. Tiny critters peeked out, little crabs, snails, and fish as if joining in the gentle, sleepy fun. Patrick crawled slowly through a coral arch, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnel. Magical. Cozy. SpongeBob drifted after him, smiling. Even the coral seems to know that this afternoon is for gentle jellyfishing dreams, full of slow, glowing magic. A school of pastel-colored fish swirled lazily nearby, their scales catching the sunlight and shimmering like tiny stars. Patrick's half-closed eyes followed them in awe. Pretty. Sparkling. Fish. SpongeBob. SpongeBob chuckled softly. Every shimmer, every movement, adds to the playful magic of our jellyfishing daydreams. They floated into a shallow lagoon where the sunlight created golden patterns on the sand below. Tiny bubbles drifted lazily upward, catching the light before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined each one as a miniature jellyfish, floating gently in slow motion. Patrick giggled quietly. Tiny! Stars! Swim! SpongeBob! SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide through his fingers, whispering, even the smallest details, the tiniest creatures, are part of the calm magic of a jellyfishing afternoon. Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible blanket. Magic. SpongeBob. Cozy. Jellyfish. The friends drifted past glowing coral towers, each one creating a soft, enchanted tunnel where jellyfish might hide. SpongeBob whispered, imagine them floating gently through these tunnels, glowing softly. It's like the ocean itself is giving us a magical show. Patrick nodded sleepily. Show, sparkling, cozy. SpongeBob? A gentle swirl of currents carried them toward a soft sandbank, where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, even the smallest friends are joining our gentle jellyfishing adventure today. Patrick's sleepy eyes sparkled faintly. Friends. Shimmering. SpongeBob. Magical. The currents guided them further into the sparkling lagoon, every ripple, every shimmer, every flicker of light adding to the soft, magical rhythm. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warmth of the golden sunlight and the calm embrace of the lagoon. Every shimmer, every ripple, every glowing jellyfish is part of our slow, dreamy jellyfishing adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick giggled in a sleepy whisper. Dreamy. SpongeBob. Cozy. Magic. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated deeper into their gentle jellyfishing dreams, letting the golden sunlight, shimmering currents, glowing jellyfish, and soft whispers of the ocean carry them further into a calm, playful, magical afternoon. SpongeBob and Patrick drifted further into the shimmering expanse of jellyfish fields, the currents carrying them gently over the soft sand. The golden sunlight sparkled through the water, casting lazy, dancing reflections across the coral and sand, making everything glow with a calm, magical warmth. Patrick yawned, tugging his blanket closer as he murmured, SpongeBob. Sparkling, cozy. Jellyfish. Magic. SpongeBob smiled, letting a tiny bubble float lazily past his fin. Yes, Patrick. Every shimmer, every ripple, every tiny glowing jellyfish. It's all part of the magic of our slow, dreamy adventure. A few small jellyfish floated nearby, their soft glow pulsing in slow, gentle rhythm. SpongeBob reached out, letting one drift through his fingers. See, even the jellyfish move slowly, perfectly. Just like our daydream, he whispered. Patrick giggled softly, tickly, soft, shimmering. SpongeBob. The currents guided them past playful coral tunnels and gentle hills, which SpongeBob imagined as tiny, secret hideouts for the jellyfish. Little critters peeked shyly, crabs, snails, and tiny fish, as if joining in the gentle, magical fun of the afternoon. Patrick crawled slowly through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob, tunnel, glowing, magical. SpongeBob floated after him, smiling. Even the coral seems to know today is made for slow, cozy jellyfishing dreams. A school of pastel-colored fish swirled lazily nearby, their scales flickering soft blues, pinks, and golds. Patrick's sleepy eyes followed them in awe. Pretty, sparkling fish. SpongeBob. SpongeBob whispered softly. Every shimmer, every movement, every tiny flicker of light adds to the gentle magic of our jellyfishing daydream. They floated into a shallow lagoon where sunlight streamed down, creating golden patterns on the sand. Tiny bubbles rose slowly to the surface, each one shimmering before popping silently. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny, floating jellyfish, gently moving through the water. Patrick giggled softly. Tiny, stars, swimming, SpongeBob. SpongeBob let a few bubbles drift through his fingers, whispering, even the smallest details, every glowing creature, every ripple in the currents, is part of our calm, magical jellyfishing adventure. Patrick curled closer in the warm currents, murmuring, magic, SpongeBob, cozy, jellyfish. The friends drifted past coral towers glowing faintly in the sunlight, imagining them as tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully. SpongeBob whispered, picture them moving slowly through these tunnels, glowing softly, like the ocean itself is putting on a gentle show for us. Patrick nodded sleepily. Show. Sparkling. Cozy. SpongeBob. A soft swirl of currents carried them toward a sandbank, where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their little homes. SpongeBob whispered, even the tiniest friends are joining our gentle jellyfishing adventure today. Patrick's half-closed eyes sparkled faintly. Friends, shimmering, SpongeBob, magical. The currents guided them deeper into the sparkling lagoon. Every ripple, every shimmer, every flicker of light added to the soft, magical rhythm of the underwater world. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warmth of sunlight and the gentle embrace of the currents. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple in the sand is part of our slow, dreamy jellyfishing adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick giggled in a sleepy whisper. Dreamy, SpongeBob, cozy, magic. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated even deeper into their gentle, whimsical jellyfishing daydreams, letting the sunlight, shimmering currents, glowing jellyfish, and soft whispers of the ocean carry them further into a calm, magical afternoon. SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily through the heart of Jellyfish Fields, the golden afternoon sunlight shimmering across the soft sand below. Each ripple in the gentle currents carried the faint hum of underwater life, sleepy crabs tapping tiny claws, the soft swish of waving kelp, and distant fish murmuring softly as they drifted through the warm water. Patrick yawned, tugging his blanket closer. SpongeBob, sparkling, soft, jellyfish. SpongeBob smiled, letting a few tiny bubbles float lazily past his fingers. Yes, Patrick. Every shimmer, every ripple, every glowing jellyfish adds to the magic of our slow, cozy daydream. A cluster of tiny jellyfish floated nearby, pulsing softly in the gentle currents. SpongeBob reached out, letting one drift gently through his fin. See? Even the jellyfish move perfectly slow, just like our afternoon dreams. Patrick giggled quietly, eyes half closed. Tickly, soft, glowing. SpongeBob, They drifted past gentle coral tunnels and small hills, imagining them as secret hideouts for the glowing jellyfish. Little critters peeked out crabs, snails, and tiny fish as if inviting the friends to enjoy the calm magic together. Patrick crawled slowly through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob, tunnel, magical, cozy. SpongeBob floated after him, smiling warmly. Even the coral seems to know today is made for slow, gentle jellyfishing dreams. A school of pastel-colored fish lazily swirled around them, their scales flickering soft pinks, blues, and golds. Patrick's sleepy eyes followed them in quiet wonder. Pretty, sparkling. Fish. SpongeBob. SpongeBob whispered softly. Every shimmer, every movement, every flicker of light adds to the magic of our calm jellyfishing adventure. They drifted into a shallow lagoon where sunlight streamed through the water, creating golden patterns on the soft sand below. Tiny bubbles rose slowly to the surface, shimmering before popping quietly. SpongeBob imagined them as little floating jellyfish, gently drifting in slow motion. Patrick giggled softly. Tiny. Stars. Swimming. SpongeBob. SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers, whispering even the smallest details. Every tiny creature, every ripple in the water, is part of our slow, cozy jellyfishing daydream. Patrick curled closer in the warm currents, murmuring, magic, SpongeBob, cozy, jellyfish. The friends floated past glowing coral towers, imagining them as tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, moving in perfect rhythm with the gentle currents. SpongeBob whispered, picture them floating slowly through the tunnels, glowing softly, like the ocean itself is performing a calm, gentle show for us. Patrick nodded sleepily. Show sparkling, cozy, SpongeBob. The currents carried them toward a soft sandbank where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, even the tiniest friends are part of our magical jellyfishing adventure today. Patrick's half-closed eyes sparkled faintly. Friends, shimmering, SpongeBob, magical. The golden sunlight shimmered through the water. The gentle currents carried them further along. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warmth of the sunlight and the cozy embrace of the lagoon. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple in the sand is part of our slow, dreamy jellyfishing adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick giggled sleepily. Dreamy, SpongeBob, cozy magic. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily through the sparkling, serene waters, letting the gentle currents, golden sunlight, glowing jellyfish, and soft whispers of the lagoon carry them deeper into a calm, magical afternoon. The golden afternoon sunlight shimmered softly through the calm currents of Jellyfish fields, wrapping SpongeBob and Patrick in a warm, peaceful glow. The lagoon hummed gently with the soft whispers of underwater life, sleepy crabs tapping tiny claws, kelp swaying in rhythm, and distant fish murmuring as they floated lazily through the water. Patrick tugged his blanket closer, his eyes half closed. SpongeBob, sparkling, soft, cozy. Jellyfish. SpongeBob smiled, letting a few tiny bubbles float lazily past his fingers. Yes, Patrick. Everything around us, the shimmer of the sand, the glow of the jellyfish, the gentle currents, it's all part of the perfect, slow, magical afternoon. Nearby, a small cluster of glowing jellyfish drifted lazily in the currents, pulsing gently in rhythm with the warm sunlight. SpongeBob reached out, letting one brush softly against his fin. See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish are floating slowly, perfectly, just like our daydream. Patrick giggled softly, curling closer. Tickly, glowing, magical. SpongeBob. They drifted past soft coral tunnels and gentle hills, imagining them as tiny secret hideouts for the jellyfish. Little crabs, snails, and tiny fish peeked shyly from behind fronds and coral, as if joining in the calm, cozy fun of the afternoon. Patrick crawled slowly through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob, tunnel, glowing, cozy. SpongeBob floated after him, smiling warmly. Even the corals seemed to know today is for gentle jellyfishing dreams, slow, magical, and full of calm. A school of pastel-colored fish swirled lazily around them, their scales flickering soft blues, pinks, and golds. Patrick's sleepy eyes followed them in awe. Pretty, shimmering, sparkling. SpongeBob. SpongeBob whispered softly. Every shimmer, every tiny movement, every flicker of light adds to the calm magic of our jellyfishing adventure. They floated into a shallow lagoon where sunlight streamed gently, casting golden patterns across the soft sand. Tiny bubbles rose slowly to the surface, each one shimmering before popping quietly. SpongeBob imagined them as little floating jellyfish, drifting peacefully through the currents. Patrick giggled quietly. Tiny. Stars. Swimming. SpongeBob let a few bubbles drift past his fingers, whispering, even the smallest details, the tiniest creatures, every shimmer and ripple, are part of our slow, cozy jellyfishing dreams. Patrick curled closer in the warm currents, murmuring, magic, SpongeBob, cozy, jellyfish. They floated past glowing coral towers, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully in perfect rhythm with the soft currents. SpongeBob whispered, picture them drifting slowly through the tunnels, glowing softly, like the ocean itself is performing a gentle, magical show for us. Patrick nodded sleepily. Show, sparkling, cozy, SpongeBob. The currents carried them toward a soft sandbank where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, even the smallest friends are joining our cozy, magical jellyfishing adventure today. Patrick's half-closed eyes sparkled faintly. Friends, shimmering, SpongeBob, magical. The golden sunlight glimmered on the water, the gentle currents cradling them as they drifted lazily onward. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warmth and calm embrace of the lagoon surrounding them. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple is part of our slow, dreamy jellyfishing adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick let out a sleepy giggle. Dreamy. SpongeBob, cozy magic. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated peacefully through the sparkling waters of jellyfish fields, letting the gentle currents, golden sunlight, shimmering jellyfish, and soft whispers of the lagoon carry them deeper into calm, cozy, and magical dreams. The afternoon lingered in their hearts, soft and warm, leaving behind the perfect memory of a slow, playful, and utterly cozy jellyfishing adventure. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, leaving behind soft streaks of orange and pink that melted slowly into the deepening blues of night. The currents in Bikini Bottom had quieted, wrapping the town in a gentle, sleepy rhythm. SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily near Jellyfish Fields, still carrying the soft glow of their dreamy jellyfishing afternoon in their hearts. Patrick tugged his blanket closer, murmuring in a sleepy voice, SpongeBob, dark, soft, sparkling, cozy. SpongeBob smiled warmly. Yes, Patrick. The night is settling in and everything feels calm and gentle, like the whole ocean is tucking us in for the night. Nearby, tiny jellyfish drifted slowly, their soft glow now mingling with the deepening twilight. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one glide past gently. See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish is slowing down, floating peacefully as the night arrives. Patrick yawned softly, eyes half closed. Floating, cozy, soft SpongeBob. They drifted past familiar coral hills and tunnels, their edges now glowing faintly under the cool nighttime currents. SpongeBob imagined tiny creatures, crabs, snails, and little fish, nestling into their coral homes, preparing for a calm night's rest. Patrick crawled slowly through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnel. Quiet. Glowing. SpongeBob floated after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to know. It's time for slow, gentle, nighttime magic. Perfect for dreaming. The currents carried the faint, sleepy hum of Bikini Bottom at night, distant fish murmuring softly, kelp swaying slowly, and tiny crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the ocean is slowing down with us. Everything moving gently, softly, perfectly." Patrick curled closer in the warm currents, murmuring, "SpongeBob, best soft, sleepy." They floated toward a small, shallow lagoon where the fading sunlight reflected in soft, muted streaks on the sand. Tiny bubbles rose lazily, shimmering briefly before popping quietly. SpongeBob imagined them as miniature stars floating slowly toward the surface of the water. Patrick giggled quietly. Stars, swimming, soft. SpongeBob let a few bubbles drift past his fingers. Even the tiniest details, every shimmer and every gentle movement, is part of the calm, magical rhythm of nighttime in Bikini Bottom, he whispered. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic. SpongeBob. Cozy, night. They floated past a small coral tower, its edges glowing faintly in the moonlit currents. SpongeBob whispered, "Imagine all the tiny creatures settling in, crabs tucking into their burrows, fish drifting in the gentle night currents, jellyfish floating softly. Everything slow, peaceful, cozy." Patrick yawned and stretched lazily. Cozy, sleepy, SpongeBob, magic. The deepening blues of the ocean shimmered around them, the gentle currents cradling them as they drifted through the calm, soft night. Each ripple, each shimmer, and each faint glow of the moonlit water added to the serene rhythm of Bikini Bottom after dark. Every shimmer, every gentle current, every glowing creature is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure. SpongeBob whispered softly. Patrick murmured, "Dreamy." SpongeBob, soft, cozy. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated peacefully, letting the gentle currents, moonlit glimmers, soft glowing jellyfish, and quiet whispers of the lagoon carry them deeper into calm, magical dreams as night settled fully over Bikini Bottom. The ocean had settled into a serene rhythm, each gentle current carrying a whisper of calm through the quiet town of Bikini Bottom. Tiny flecks of bioluminescent plankton glowed softly in the darkening water, creating a delicate, magical sparkle that seemed to dance around SpongeBob and Patrick as they drifted lazily near Jellyfish fields. Patrick yawned and tucked his blanket tighter around his shoulders. SpongeBob, stars, soft, cozy, night. SpongeBob chuckled softly, his eyes half closed with a sleepy warmth. That's right, Patrick. The night is full of soft magic. Every shimmer, every glow, every gentle ripple is part of the peaceful rhythm of Bikini Bottom. A few glowing jellyfish floated nearby, their light pulsating gently in the calm currents. SpongeBob reached out a fin and let one drift lazily through his fingers. See, Patrick, they're moving so slowly, so perfectly, just like the ocean wants us to drift tonight. Patrick giggled softly, his eyes blinking sleepily. Tickly, glowing. Magic? SpongeBob? They floated past familiar coral hills and soft tunnels, their edges glowing faintly in the cool blue night currents. SpongeBob imagined tiny fish nestling into cozy crevices, crabs tucking into the sand, and snails curling into their shells, all preparing for the calmness of the night. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob, tunnels, glowing, peaceful. SpongeBob drifted after him, smiling gently. Even the coral seems to know it's time for a soft, slow night, a night full of gentle, magical moments. The currents carried a faint, comforting hum through the water, the soft whispers of sleeping fish, the gentle sway of kelp, and the distant tapping of crabs preparing for rest. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is slowing down, drifting, floating perfectly, just for us tonight." Patrick snuggled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible, cozy blanket. SpongeBob, soft, dreamy, magical. They floated toward a small lagoon where moonlight filtered through the water, casting soft silver reflections on the sand below. Tiny bubbles rose slowly to the surface, shimmering briefly before popping gently. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny floating stars, each one drifting lazily toward the surface in their own sleepy dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Stars, swimming, sparkling, SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest movements, the softest glows, every shimmer in the water, it all adds to the calm, magical rhythm of the night in Bikini Bottom. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic, cozy, SpongeBob, dreamy. They floated past small coral towers, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, moving in perfect sleepy rhythm with the gentle currents. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Picture them drifting slowly through the tunnels, glowing faintly, the ocean itself performing a gentle, quiet show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show sparkling, calm, SpongeBob?" The currents carried them toward a soft sandbank where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the tiniest friends are part of our peaceful, magical night. Everyone's settling in, ready to dream." Patrick's half-closed eyes twinkled faintly. "Friends? Shimmering, sleepy. SpongeBob?" The deepening blues of the ocean shimmered around them, the gentle currents cradling them as they drifted lazily onward. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the calm embrace of the moonlit lagoon surrounding them. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple in the sand is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick let out a sleepy giggle. Dreamy, SpongeBob, cozy, magic. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated peacefully through the darkened waters of Bikini Bottom, letting the gentle currents, soft moonlight, glowing jellyfish, and quiet whispers of the lagoon carry them deeper into calm, magical dreams as night fully embraced the town. The water around Bikini Bottom had grown darker, but soft glows of bioluminescent plankton sprinkled the currents like tiny floating lanterns. Each flicker of light drifted lazily, casting gentle reflections across the sand and coral. SpongeBob and Patrick floated peacefully, letting the calm rhythm of the night carry them forward. Patrick yawned, pulling his blanket closer. SpongeBob, twinkly, soft, cozy, sleepy? SpongeBob smiled warmly. Yes, Patrick. The night is full of quiet magic. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every tiny ripple of water. It's all part of our slow, peaceful adventure tonight. Nearby, a group of jellyfish glowed softly, drifting gently through the cool currents. SpongeBob reached out a fin and let one float past. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish are drifting slowly. Perfectly. Just like the ocean wants us to tonight." Patrick giggled softly. Tickly. Glowing. Dreamy. SpongeBob. They floated past familiar coral hills and soft tunnels, glowing faintly under the gentle moonlight filtering through the water. SpongeBob imagined tiny fish curling up in their cozy coral homes, crabs burrowing into the sand, and snails curling into shells, all preparing for a calm night of rest. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Peaceful. Sparkling. SpongeBob floated after him, whispering softly. Even the coral knows it's time for a gentle, magical night, perfect for soft dreams and cozy floating. The currents carried a soft hum of nighttime life, distant fish murmuring gently, kelp swaying in slow rhythm, and crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is slowing down, drifting, floating, perfectly, just for us." Patrick snuggled closer, letting the warm, calm currents wrap him in an invisible blanket. SpongeBob. Soft. Magical. Sleepy. They floated toward a shallow lagoon where the moonlight created silvery patterns on the sand below. Tiny bubbles rose lazily, catching the faint glow of the moon before popping gently. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny stars, each floating slowly toward the surface of the water, twinkling softly in the calm night. Patrick murmured sleepily, "Stars. Floating. Cozy. SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles drift past his fingers, whispering, "Even the tiniest glimmers, the softest ripples, every shimmer in the water, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom at night." Patrick's sleepy smile widened. "Magic. Cozy. Soft. SpongeBob." They floated past glowing coral towers, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully in perfect rhythm with the slow currents. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them drifting through the tunnels, glowing faintly, like the ocean itself is performing a soft, quiet show just for us." Patrick nodded slowly. "Show sparkling, calm, SpongeBob?" The currents carried them gently toward a sandbank where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the tiniest friends are a part of our cozy, magical night. Everyone settling down, ready to dream." Patrick's half-closed eyes twinkled faintly. Friends. Shimmering. Sleepy. SpongeBob. The deep, quiet blues of the ocean surrounded them, the gentle currents cradling them as they floated lazily onward. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warm embrace of the moonlit lagoon. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick murmured, "Dreamy." SpongeBob, "Soft. Cozy." And so SpongeBob and Patrick drifted peacefully through the calm waters of Bikini Bottom, letting the gentle currents, soft moonlight, glowing jellyfish, and quiet whispers of the lagoon carry them deeper into calm, magical dreams as night fully settled. The ocean had settled into a gentle, rhythmic lull. Shadows stretched softly across the sandy floor, and the faint glow of bioluminescent plankton cast tiny floating lights, twinkling like stars in the calm, dark water. SpongeBob and Patrick drifted lazily, each motion slow and soothing, carried effortlessly by the gentle currents. Patrick yawned and snuggled closer to his blanket. SpongeBob, soft, glowing, sleepy, cozy? SpongeBob smiled warmly, his eyes half closed. "Yes, Patrick. The night is calm and magical. Every shimmer, every gentle ripple, every glowing jellyfish, it's all part of the soft rhythm of Bikini Bottom at night." A cluster of jellyfish floated nearby, and their soft lights pulsing slowly, as if echoing the gentle heartbeat of the ocean. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift through gently. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish move so perfectly slow, like they're dancing just for us tonight." Patrick giggled quietly. Tickly, shimmering, magical. SpongeBob. They floated past soft coral hills and gently twisting tunnels, glowing faintly under the moonlit currents. SpongeBob imagined tiny fish curling into cozy coral homes, crabs tucking into the sand, and snails retreating into their shells, all settling in for a peaceful night. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Sparkling. Peaceful. SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to know it's time for gentle dreams. Soft, magical, and slow. Perfect for nighttime floating. The currents carried a faint, comforting hum. Distant fish murmuring, kelp swaying slowly, and crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything around us is slowing down, floating gently, drifting perfectly with the night." Patrick curled closer, letting the calm currents wrap him in a warm, invisible blanket. SpongeBob. Soft, cozy, magical. They floated toward a shallow lagoon where moonlight created shimmering patterns on the sand. Tiny bubbles rose lazily, catching the pale light before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny stars drifting slowly toward the surface, each glimmering faintly in the quiet night. Patrick murmured sleepily, "Stars, floating, sparkling." SpongeBob. SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest glimmers, the softest ripples, every shimmer in the water, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of the night in Bikini Bottom. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic. Soft. Cozy. SpongeBob. They floated past glowing coral towers, imagining tunnels where jellyfish drifted gracefully, moving in perfect rhythm with the gentle night currents. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Picture them gliding through the tunnels, glowing faintly. The ocean itself performing a soft, magical show just for us." Patrick nodded slowly. "Show sparkling, dreamy SpongeBob." The currents carried them toward a soft sandbank where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the smallest friends are part of our peaceful night. Everyone settling in, ready to dream." Patrick's half-closed eyes twinkled faintly. Friends. Shimmering. Sleepy. SpongeBob. The deep blues of the night surrounded them, the gentle currents cradling them as they floated lazily onward. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warm, calming embrace of the moonlit lagoon around them. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple in the sand is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick murmured, "Dreamy, SpongeBob, cozy, magical." And so SpongeBob and Patrick drifted further into the calm, quiet waters of Bikini Bottom, letting the gentle currents, soft moonlight, glowing jellyfish, and the hush of night carry them deeper into cozy, magical dreams. As the night grew deeper, the ocean around Bikini Bottom shimmered in soft hues of deep blue and silver. Tiny bioluminescent plankton drifted lazily in the currents, glowing faintly like distant stars scattered across the water. SpongeBob and Patrick floated slowly, carried gently by the calm currents, feeling the cozy embrace of the night around them. Patrick yawned, tugging his blanket closer. SpongeBob, sparkling, soft, sleepy, magical. SpongeBob smiled warmly, his eyes half closed. "Yes, Patrick. The night is perfect for drifting slowly, for letting the gentle rhythm of the ocean guide us, for enjoying all the soft little wonders of Bikini Bottom at night. A cluster of glowing jellyfish floated nearby, their soft pulses casting a gentle glow across the sand. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one float past lazily. See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish move so calmly, so slowly, as if the ocean itself is singing a lullaby. Patrick giggled softly, his eyes blinking sleepily. Tickly, shimmer, cozy. SpongeBob. They drifted past familiar coral tunnels and softly swaying kelp, glowing faintly under the moonlit currents. SpongeBob imagined tiny fish curling into coral homes, crabs tucking into the sand, and snails retreating into shells, all settling into the calm rhythm of the night. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Peaceful. Glowing. SpongeBob floated after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to know it's time for gentle dreams. Slow, magical, and cozy. Perfect for drifting under the night sky. The currents carried a faint, comforting hum, distant fish murmuring, kelp swaying, and crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered. Everything is slowing down. Drifting. Floating. Perfectly. Just for us tonight. Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible, cozy blanket. SpongeBob. Soft. Sleepy. Magical. They floated past small coral towers and hidden crevices, imagining tunnels where glowing jellyfish drifted gracefully, moving in perfect harmony with the calm currents. SpongeBob whispered softly. Picture them gliding slowly through the tunnels, glowing faintly, like the ocean itself is performing a soft, magical show just for us. Patrick nodded sleepily. Show, sparkling? Dreamy SpongeBob. The currents carried them toward a quiet part of a town, where houses and storefronts were bathed in soft moonlight. Tiny lights from windows glimmered faintly through the water, adding gentle warmth to the deep blues surrounding them. SpongeBob whispered, even the town seems to slow down tonight. Everything's soft, cozy, peaceful. Patrick's half-closed eyes twinkled faintly. Friends, shimmering, calm, SpongeBob. The currents guided them past SpongeBob's pineapple house, glowing softly under the night sky. He imagined it as a safe little haven, the perfect place to rest after drifting through a night full of gentle magic. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple in the sand is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure, SpongeBob whispered softly. Patrick murmured, dreamy, SpongeBob, soft, cozy. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily through the peaceful streets of Bikini Bottom, letting the gentle currents, soft moonlight, glowing jellyfish, and quiet whispers of the night carry them deeper into calm, magical dreams. The moon had risen higher over Bikini Bottom, casting a soft, silvery glow across the quiet ocean floor. The currents carried the faint hum of nighttime life, a few distant fish murmuring softly, kelp swaying slowly, and the gentle tapping of tiny crabs settling into the sand. SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily, letting the soothing rhythm of the ocean cradle them. Patrick yawned and tugged his blanket closer around him. SpongeBob, glowing, soft, sleepy, cozy. SpongeBob smiled, his eyes warm and calm. Yes, Patrick, the night is full of gentle magic. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple in the water is all part of the peaceful rhythm of Bikini Bottom after dark. A small cluster of glowing jellyfish floated by, pulsing softly in the moonlit currents. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift gently past. See, Patrick? They're moving so slowly, so perfectly, just like the night wants us to drift. Patrick giggled quietly, tickly, shimmering, magical. SpongeBob. They floated past familiar coral hills and tunnels, their edges glowing faintly under the soft moonlight. SpongeBob imagined tiny fish curling into coral homes, crabs tucking into the sand, and snails retreating into shells, all preparing for a calm night of rest. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Peaceful. Sparkling. SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to know it's time for slow, gentle dreams, perfect for floating under the quiet night. The currents carried a soothing hum, distant fish murmuring, kelp swaying slowly, and tiny crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is slowing down, drifting, floating, perfectly, just for us tonight." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible, cozy blanket. SpongeBob. Soft, magical, dreamy. They floated past glowing coral towers, imagining tunnels where jellyfish drifted gracefully, moving in perfect rhythm with the gentle currents. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Picture them gliding slowly through the tunnels, glowing faintly. The ocean itself performing a soft, magical show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show, sparkling, calm. SpongeBob." The currents carried them past small nooks in the ocean floor where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the tiniest friends are part of our peaceful night. Everyone settling in, ready to dream." Patrick's half-closed eyes twinkled faintly. Friends? Shimmering, sleepy SpongeBob? The soft blues and silvers of the night cradled them as they floated lazily onward. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the warm, calming embrace of the moonlit lagoon around them. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick murmured, "Dreamy." SpongeBob, cozy, magical. And so SpongeBob and Patrick drifted further into the calm, quiet waters of Bikini Bottom, letting the gentle currents, soft moonlight, glowing jellyfish, and hush of night carry them deeper into cozy, magical dreams. The moon hung high over Bikini Bottom, casting a serene, silvery glow over the quiet ocean. The currents moved slowly, wrapping the town in a soft, gentle embrace. SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily near Jellyfish Fields, feeling the calm rhythm of the night settle into every fin, every bubble, and every shimmering reflection. Patrick yawned, pulling his blanket tighter around him. SpongeBob, cozy, sleepy, soft, magic. SpongeBob smiled warmly, his eyes half closed. "Yes, Patrick. The night is full of gentle magic. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple, everything moving in perfect harmony for us to drift peacefully." A cluster of glowing jellyfish floated nearby, their gentle pulses painting the currents with soft light. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift past slowly. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish are moving so slowly, so perfectly, like the ocean itself is singing a lullaby just for us." Patrick giggled softly, eyes heavy with sleep. "Tickly, shimmering, cozy. SpongeBob." They floated past familiar coral hills and tunnels, their edges glowing faintly under the gentle moonlight. SpongeBob imagined tiny fish curling into cozy coral homes, crabs tucking into the sand, and snails retreating into shells, all drifting slowly into dreams of their own. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Peaceful. Glowing. SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to know. It's time for gentle dreams. Slow, magical, cozy. Perfect for nighttime floating. The currents carried a faint, soothing hum, distant fish murmuring, kelp swaying, and crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything around us is slowing down, floating gently, drifting perfectly with the night, just for us." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him like an invisible, cozy blanket. SpongeBob, soft, sleepy, magical. They floated past glowing coral towers, imagining tunnels where jellyfish drifted gracefully, moving in perfect rhythm with the calm night. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Picture them gliding slowly through the tunnels, glowing faintly, the ocean itself performing a soft, magical show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. Show. Sparkling. Dreamy. SpongeBob. The currents carried them toward a soft sandbank where tiny starfish peeked shyly from their burrows. SpongeBob whispered, "Even the smallest friends are part of our peaceful night." Everyone settling in, ready to dream. Patrick murmured, eyes half closed. "Friends, shimmering, sleepy." SpongeBob. The deep blues and silvers of the night cradled them, the gentle currents carrying them lazily onward. SpongeBob smiled, feeling the soft, warm embrace of the moonlit lagoon surrounding them. Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every ripple is part of our slow, dreamy nighttime adventure, he whispered softly. Patrick let out a sleepy giggle. Dreamy, SpongeBob, soft, cozy. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated peacefully through the calm waters of Bikini Bottom, letting the gentle currents, soft moonlight, glowing jellyfish, and quiet whispers of the night carry them deeper into calm, magical dreams. The town rested under the shimmering glow of the moon, the soft, tranquil magic of the night, wrapping every creature, every coral, every ripple in a tender, cozy lullaby. As their eyes finally closed, the ocean seemed to hum quietly, a lullaby of shimmering light, gentle currents, and soft night sounds that would carry them through the deepest, coziest dreams. The magic of nighttime in Bikini Bottom lingered in every corner, soft, slow, and perfect a memory of calm, warmth, and friendship to carry SpongeBob and Patrick gently into sleep. The first light of morning began to ripple softly through the water of Bikini Bottom. Gentle streaks of pale gold and soft pink shimmered across the sandy floor, stretching over coral hills and hidden nooks. The currents were slow and calming, carrying tiny bubbles that drifted lazily to the surface, catching the glow of the rising sun. SpongeBob floated near Jellyfish Fields, eyes still half closed, a soft smile on his face. "Patrick, look, the ocean is waking slowly. Soft and golden, cozy." Patrick yawned, snuggling closer to his blanket. SpongeBob, sleepy, warm, sparkling, soft. Tiny jellyfish floated past, glowing faintly, their lights mingling with the delicate hues of dawn. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift gently past. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish are stretching into the morning, drifting peacefully, like the whole ocean is waking with a gentle hug." Patrick giggled softly, his eyes fluttering shut. "Tickly, shimmering, dreamy, SpongeBob." They floated past familiar coral tunnels and gentle sandbanks, where tiny fish peeked out of their homes, blinking sleepily at the soft morning light. SpongeBob imagined the crabs slowly waking, stretching their claws, and snails rolling lazily through the calm currents, all moving gently into the day. Patrick crawled lazily through a small coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Glowing cozy. SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to stretch with the dawn. Soft, magical, slow, perfect for floating gently into a calm new day. The currents carried the gentle hum of the waking ocean. Distant fish murmuring softly, kelp swaying in slow rhythm, and tiny crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is moving slowly, drifting, floating, perfectly. Just like the ocean wants us to start the morning." Patrick snuggled closer, letting the warm, calm currents wrap him like a soft blanket. SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, cozy. They floated past small coral towers and hidden nooks, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, pulsing softly with the gentle morning light. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Picture them drifting through the tunnels, glowing faintly. The ocean itself performing a slow, peaceful morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. Show, sparkling, soft as SpongeBob. The currents guided them toward a shallow lagoon where sunlight shimmered over the sand, creating a golden dance across the gentle waves. Tiny bubbles rose lazily, catching the warm light before popping quietly. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny floating suns, drifting gently to the surface in their sleep morning dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Floating, sparkling, cozy, SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer, every little glow in the water, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom waking gently with the dawn. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic, soft, dreamy. SpongeBob. The golden pink light of the morning wrapped around them, mingling with the faint silvery glow still lingering from the night. SpongeBob whispered, "Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every gentle ripple is part of our peaceful, cozy start to the day." Patrick murmured, eyes half closed. Dreamy. SpongeBob. Soft, magical. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated slowly, letting the gentle currents, soft dawn light, and sleepy whispers of Bikini Bottom carry them deeper into calm, cozy dreams as the first golden rays of morning stretched across the ocean. The soft morning light spread further through Bikini Bottom, bathing the coral hills and tunnels in pale gold and gentle pink. The water sparkled faintly with tiny bubbles, drifting lazily toward the surface. SpongeBob and Patrick floated near Jellyfish fields, letting the gentle currents carry them as the town slowly stirred to life. Patrick yawned and pulled his blanket closer, a sleepy grin on his face. SpongeBob, soft, glowing, peaceful, morning. SpongeBob smiled warmly, eyes half closed. "Yes, Patrick. Everything is waking gently. The ocean, the coral, even the jellyfish, all moving slowly, perfectly, in rhythm with the dawn." A few glowing jellyfish floated past, their soft pulses mixing with the pale morning light. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one glide slowly through. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish are waking slowly, drifting peacefully, like the ocean is stretching gently after a long, calm night." Patrick giggled softly, half asleep. Tickly, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob. They drifted past familiar coral tunnels and soft sandbanks, where tiny fish blinked sleepily, stretching their fins in the morning glow. SpongeBob imagined crabs slowly emerging from their burrows, yawning, and snails rolling lazily along, all moving gently into the day. Patrick crawled lazily through a small coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels, glowing soft. SpongeBob floated after him, whispering softly, Even the coral seems to stretch with the morning. Soft, magical, slow, perfect for drifting gently into a calm new day. The currents carried the comforting hum of the waking ocean. Distant fish murmuring, kelp swaying in rhythm, and tiny crabs tapping quietly in the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is moving slowly, drifting, floating, perfectly. Just like the ocean wants us to start our day calmly." Patrick snuggled closer, letting the warm, gentle currents wrap him in an invisible blanket. SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, cozy. They floated past coral towers and hidden nooks, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, pulsing softly with the gentle morning light. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them drifting through the tunnels, glowing faintly. The ocean itself performing a slow, peaceful morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show, sparkling, soft." SpongeBob. The currents guided them toward a shallow lagoon where the golden sunlight shimmered over the sand, creating a soft dance across the gentle waves. Tiny bubbles rose lazily, catching the warm light before popping quietly. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny, floating suns, drifting gently to the surface in their sleepy morning dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Floating, sparkling, cozy." SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer, every little glow in the water, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom waking gently with the dawn. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. "Magic, soft, dreamy." SpongeBob. The golden pink morning light wrapped around them, mingling with the faint silvery glow lingering from the night. SpongeBob whispered, "Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every gentle ripple is part of our peaceful, cozy start to the day." Patrick murmured, eyes half closed, "Dreamy." SpongeBob, soft, magical. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated slowly, letting the gentle currents, soft dawn light, and sleepy whispers of Bikini Bottom carry them deeper into calm, cozy dreams as the day quietly awoke around them. The gentle morning light stretched farther through the waters of Bikini Bottom, painting the coral hills, tunnels, and sandy floor in shades of soft gold and tender pink. Tiny bubbles floated lazily toward the surface, reflecting the first rays of the sun in shimmering little suns that danced gently in the calm currents. SpongeBob floated near Jellyfish fields, feeling the warmth of the morning glow on his spongy yellow surface. Patrick, the day is waking slowly, soft, cozy, gentle, magical. Patrick yawned, snuggling into his blanket, eyes half closed. SpongeBob, sleepy, shimmering, sparkling, soft. Clusters of glowing jellyfish floated by, their soft lights mingling with the early sunlight. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one glide gently past. "See, Patrick, even the jellyfish are waking slowly, drifting peacefully, the ocean itself stretching gently into a new day." Patrick giggled softly, letting his eyelids flutter. "Tickly, cozy, magical. SpongeBob." They floated past familiar coral tunnels and gently swaying kelp, where tiny fish blinked sleepily and stretched their fins, starting their morning routines. SpongeBob imagined crabs emerging from their burrows, yawning, and snails rolling lazily across the sand, each movement slow, soft, and perfectly timed with the morning currents. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Glowing, calm. SpongeBob floated after him, whispering softly. Even the coral seems to stretch with the dawn. Soft, magical. Perfect for drifting slowly into the gentle rhythm of the morning. The currents carried the soft murmur of the waking ocean, distant fish whispering to each other, kelp swaying in rhythm, and tiny crabs tapping lightly on the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is moving slowly, drifting, floating, perfectly, just like the ocean wants us to greet the day calmly." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him like a soft, invisible blanket. SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, cozy. They floated past coral towers and quiet nooks, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, pulsing gently with the morning light. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them drifting slowly through the tunnels, glowing softly. The ocean itself performing a peaceful, magical morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show, sparkling, soft." SpongeBob. The currents guided them toward a shallow lagoon where the golden sunlight shimmered over the sand, creating dancing patterns across the gentle waves. Tiny bubbles floated lazily, catching the warm glow before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny floating suns, each one drifting gently upward in a calm sleep morning dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Floating, shimmering, cozy." SpongeBob. SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer, every gentle glow in the water, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom as it wakes softly with the dawn. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. "Magic, soft, dreamy." SpongeBob. The golden pink morning light wrapped around them, blending with the faint silvery glow lingering from the night. SpongeBob whispered, "Every shimmer, every glowing jellyfish, every gentle ripple is part of our peaceful, cozy start to the day." Patrick murmured, eyes half closed. "Dreamy." SpongeBob. Soft, magical. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated slowly, letting the gentle currents, soft morning light, and quiet whispers of the town carry them deeper into calm, cozy dreams as the first day of morning quietly awakened around them. The soft, golden light stretched through Bikini Bottom, spilling across coral towers, winding tunnels, and gently rippling sandbanks. The currents carried tiny bubbles lazily toward the surface, each one catching the first sunlight and reflecting it like a floating star. SpongeBob and Patrick drifted near jellyfish fields, feeling the gentle warmth of the morning glow on their skin. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Patrick, look, everyone is waking slowly, soft, cozy, magical." Patrick yawned and snuggled his blanket closer. SpongeBob, sleepy, shimmering, sparkling, soft. Tiny jellyfish drifted lazily through the warm currents, their soft light mingling with the golden dawn. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one float gently past. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish are stretching into the morning, drifting peacefully, like the whole ocean is breathing slowly, welcoming the day." Patrick giggled softly. "Tickly, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob." As they floated past familiar coral tunnels and sandbanks, tiny fish peeked out, blinking sleepily at the warm light. SpongeBob imagined crabs slowly emerging from their burrows, stretching their claws, and snails rolling lazily across the sand, all moving gently with the morning currents. Patrick crawled through a small coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. "SpongeBob, tunnels, glowing, soft." SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering, "Even the coral seems to stretch with the dawn. Soft, magical, perfect for drifting slowly into the gentle rhythm of the morning." Nearby, SpongeBob noticed familiar faces beginning to wake. Sandy peeked from her tree dome, her paws stretched slowly, a tiny yawn escaping. "Good morning, Bikini Bottom." "Soft, peaceful," SpongeBob whispered to Patrick. "See, Everyone wakes gently. The day starts calm and cozy. Patrick's eyes blinked sleepily. Friends? Glowing? Cozy, SpongeBob? The currents carried the soothing hum of the waking town. Fish murmuring to each other, kelp swaying lazily, crabs tapping softly on the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything moves slowly, floating, drifting perfectly, just like the ocean wants us to greet the day gently." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible, cozy blanket. SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, soft. They floated past coral towers and quiet nooks, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, pulsing softly with the morning light. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them drifting slowly through the tunnels, glowing softly, like a peaceful, magical morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. Show, sparkling, calm, SpongeBob. The lagoon ahead shimmered softly as golden sunlight filtered across the gentle waves. Tiny bubbles floated lazily upward, each catching the warm glow before popping quietly. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny floating suns, drifting gently to the surface in a calm, sleepy dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Floating, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles drift past his fingers. Even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer, every gentle glow, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom waking with the dawn. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic, soft, dreamy, SpongeBob. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily, letting the gentle currents, warm morning light, and peaceful whispers of the town carry them deeper into calm, cozy dreams as the day quietly awakened around them. The golden light of dawn spread gently across Bikini Bottom, turning the coral hills, tunnels, and sandbanks into a magical tapestry of soft pinks, pale golds, and silvery blues. The currents moved slowly, cradling tiny bubbles that floated lazily to the surface, reflecting the first rays of the sun like twinkling floating stars. SpongeBob drifted near Jellyfish fields, feeling the gentle warmth of the morning water. Patrick, look, everything is waking slowly, soft, cozy, magical. Patrick yawned and snuggled his blanket closer. SpongeBob, sleepy, shimmering, sparkling, soft. Clusters of glowing jellyfish floated lazily past, their gentle pulses mixing with the early sunlight. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one glide gently through. See, Patrick, even the jellyfish are stretching into the morning, drifting peacefully, like the ocean itself is waking with a soft sigh. Patrick giggled softly, tickly, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob. As they floated past familiar coral tunnels and soft sandbanks, tiny fish blinked sleepily, stretching their fins in the morning light. SpongeBob imagined crabs emerging from their burrows, yawning, and snails rolling lazily across the sand, each movement perfectly in rhythm with the gentle currents. Patrick crawled through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob, tunnels, glowing, calm. SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering, "Even the coral seems to stretch with the dawn. Soft, magical, perfect for drifting slowly into the gentle rhythm of the morning." Nearby, SpongeBob noticed more familiar faces slowly waking. Squidward peeked out from his Easter Island headhouse, stretching his tentacles lazily, a soft yawn escaping. SpongeBob whispered, "Even Squidward is waking gently. The whole town moves softly with the morning light." Patrick's eyes blinked sleepily. Friend, shimmer, cozy, SpongeBob. The currents carried the gentle hum of the waking townfish murmuring to each other, kelp swaying slowly, and tiny crabs tapping lightly on the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is moving softly, drifting, floating, perfectly, like the ocean wants us to greet the day calmly." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him in an invisible blanket. SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, soft. They floated past coral towers and hidden nooks, imagining tunnels where jellyfish drifted gracefully, pulsing gently with the morning light. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them gliding slowly through the tunnels, glowing softly. The ocean itself performing a peaceful, magical morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show sparkling, soft, SpongeBob." The lagoon ahead shimmered in the golden morning light. Tiny bubbles floated lazily upward, catching the sun before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined them as tiny floating suns, each drifting gently to the surface in a calm, sleepy morning dance. "Oh," Patrick murmured softly, "floating, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer, every gentle glow adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom, waking with the dawn. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic, soft, dreamy, SpongeBob. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily, letting the gentle currents, soft morning light, and peaceful whispers of the town carry them deeper into calm, cozy dreams as the day quietly unfolded around them. The morning light spread fully across Bikini Bottom, soft golden rays mingling with the lingering silvery glow of the night. Coral towers shimmered gently, sandbanks glistened faintly, and the currents moved slowly, cradling tiny bubbles that drifted lazily to the surface. The gentle hum of the waking ocean wrapped the town in a calm, peaceful rhythm. SpongeBob floated near Jellyfish fields, feeling the warmth of the sun filtering through the water. "Patrick, the day is waking slowly, soft, golden, cozy, magical." Patrick yawned, nestling into his blanket, eyes half closed. "SpongeBob, sleepy, shimmering, sparkling, soft." Clusters of glowing jellyfish floated past, their faint pulses blending with the morning light. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift gently by. "See, Patrick, even the jellyfish are stretching slowly, drifting peacefully, like the ocean itself is sighing gently with the morning." Patrick giggled softly, eyes fluttering. "Tickly, shimmering, dreamy, SpongeBob." They floated past familiar coral tunnels, swaying kelp and small sandbanks, where tiny fish blinked sleepily and stretched their fins. SpongeBob imagined crabs emerging from burrows, stretching slowly, and snails rolling gently across the sand, each movement perfectly timed with the morning currents. Patrick crawled lazily through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. SpongeBob. Tunnels. Glowing. Calm. SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering, "Even the coral seems to stretch with the dawn. Soft. Magical. Perfect for floating slowly into the gentle rhythm of the morning." Nearby, familiar faces began to wake gently. Sandy peeked from her tree dome, stretching her paws lazily. Squidward rolled out of bed with a quiet sigh, stretching his tentacles in the morning glow. SpongeBob whispered, "See, Patrick, everyone is waking slowly, gently. The day starts calm and cozy for all." Patrick's eyes blinked sleepily. "Friends, glowing, cozy, SpongeBob." The currents carried the soft hum of the waking town fish murmuring, kelp swaying, and tiny crabs tapping gently on the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything moves slowly, drifting, floating, perfectly, just like the ocean wants us to greet the day calmly and peacefully." Patrick curled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him like an invisible blanket. SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, soft. They floated past coral towers and quiet nooks, imagining tunnels where jellyfish glided gracefully, pulsing softly with the morning light. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them drifting slowly through the tunnels, glowing faintly. The ocean itself performing a peaceful, magical morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show, sparkling, calm, SpongeBob." The lagoon ahead shimmered in golden light, tiny bubbles floating lazily upward, catching the sun before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined them as floating suns, each drifting gently to the surface in a calm, sleepy dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Floating, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles glide past his fingers. Even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer, every gentle glow, adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom waking fully with the dawn. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic, soft, dreamy, SpongeBob. And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated lazily, letting the gentle currents, warm morning light, and peaceful whispers of the town carry them deeper into calm, cozy dreams as the day unfolded gently around them. The morning had fully unfolded over Bikini Bottom, soft golden light bathing the coral towers, winding tunnels and gentle sandbanks. Tiny bubbles floated lazily toward the surface, shimmering like little stars as they caught the sun's first rays. The currents moved slowly, wrapping the town in a gentle, peaceful rhythm that felt like a warm hug from the ocean itself. SpongeBob floated near Jellyfish Fields, his eyes half closed, a soft smile on his face. "Patrick, look, the ocean, the town, even the jellyfish, all waking slowly, soft, cozy, magical." Patrick yawned and snuggled deeper into his blanket, eyes fluttering. "SpongeBob, dreamy, shimmering, sparkling, soft." Clusters of jellyfish floated by, their gentle pulses mixing with the golden light. SpongeBob reached out a fin, letting one drift past slowly. "See, Patrick? Even the jellyfish move slowly, drifting peacefully, like the ocean itself is singing a gentle morning lullaby." Patrick giggled softly, eyes half closed. "Tickly, sparkling, cozy, SpongeBob." They floated past familiar coral tunnels where tiny fish blinked sleepily and stretched their fins. Crabs emerged slowly from their burrow, yawning, while snails rolled lazily across the sand, moving gently with the calm currents. Every creature seemed wrapped in the soft golden glow of the new day. Patrick crawled through a coral archway, peeking out with a sleepy grin. "SpongeBob, tunnels, glowing, calm." SpongeBob drifted after him, whispering, "Even the coral seems to stretch with the dawn. Soft, magical, perfect for floating slowly into the gentle rhythm of the morning." Sandy peeked from her tree dome, stretching slowly, while Squidward rolled lazily from his Easter Island head house. SpongeBob whispered, "See, Patrick, everyone wakes gently. The day starts soft, calm, and cozy." Patrick's sleepy eyes twinkled. "Friends, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob." The currents carried the soothing hum of the fully awake townfish, murmuring quietly, kelp swaying in slow rhythm, and tiny crabs tapping lightly on the sand. SpongeBob whispered, "Everything is floating, drifting, moving slowly, perfectly, like the ocean itself wants us to enjoy this calm, magical morning." Patrick snuggled closer, letting the warm currents wrap him like a soft, invisible blanket. "SpongeBob, dreamy, golden, soft." They floated past coral towers and gentle tunnels, imagining jellyfish gliding gracefully, pulsing softly with the morning light. SpongeBob whispered, "Picture them drifting slowly through the tunnels, glowing faintly, the ocean performing a peaceful, magical morning show just for us." Patrick nodded sleepily. "Show, sparkling?" "Soft, SpongeBob." The shallow lagoon ahead shimmered in full golden light. Tiny bubbles rose lazily, catching the sun before popping softly. SpongeBob imagined them as floating suns, each drifting gently upward in a calm, sleepy dance. Patrick murmured softly, "Floating, shimmering, cozy, SpongeBob." SpongeBob let a few bubbles drift past his fingers, even the tiniest ripples, the softest shimmer. Every little glow adds to the calm, magical rhythm of Bikini Bottom welcoming the day. Patrick's sleepy smile widened. Magic, soft, dreamy. SpongeBob. The golden light wrapped around SpongeBob and Patrick, mingling with the faint silver remnants of the night. Every shimmer, every bubble, every gentle ripple felt like a hug from the ocean itself. SpongeBob whispered softly, This is the perfect peaceful dawn, the calmest, coziest start to the day, for us, for everyone in Bikini Bottom." Patrick murmured, eyes closing fully. "Dreamy, soft, magical, SpongeBob." And so SpongeBob and Patrick floated gently in the warm, golden currents, letting the morning light, the soft hum of the town, and the gentle glow of the jellyfish carry them into the deepest, coziest dreams. The ocean hummed quietly, the town glimmered softly, and the magic of the peaceful dawn of Bikini Bottom lingered in every corner, slow, warm, and perfect. As they drifted fully into sleep, the currents whispered lullabies, the sunlight danced gently across the waves, and the town rested under the soft, tender embrace of a new day. The story of Bikini Bottom's night, turning into a peaceful dawn, had reached its gentle, cozy conclusion, leaving behind warmth, calm, and the soft, lingering magic of friendship and dreams. Good night, and sweet, sleepy dreams.